Good afternoon. I am calling back to order this recessed meeting of the Portland City Council. It is 2 o'clock on Thursday, August 6th. Keelan, could we please take the roll?
Good afternoon. Koyamaline.
Here.
Murillo. Novick.
Here.
Clark. Green.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Avalos.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Knoll.
Here.
Colonel Guinea. Ryan. Dunphy.
Here. And could we please read the rules of decorum for the chamber?
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Portland City Council. To testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance on the council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. Information on engaging with council can be found on the council clerk's webpage. Individuals may testify for 3 minutes unless the presiding officer states otherwise. Your microphone will be muted when your time is over. The presiding officer preserves order. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in an ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony should address the matter being considered. When testifying, state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. If you're a lobbyist, identify your the organization you represent. Virtual testifiers should unmute themselves when council clerk calls your name. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have 4 items on our agenda. However, the majority of our time today will be spent discussing the Moda Center items. 2 of our items are relatively quick. We have already extended this meeting to 6 o'clock. That is a hard out at 6 o'clock. It is my hope we can at least get through the agenda and get first readings done on everything here. Our original agenda placed the return of the Moda Center item at the end of today's agenda, but we were originally anticipating a relatively quick discussion of Councilors Smith and Koyamaline's traffic safety item. However, now that amendments have been filed, it looks like we need to do the MODA item before the traffic safety item so that we can be sure to complete that work today. Therefore, I'd like to reorder the agenda, swapping items 8 and 9. May I have unanimous consent to do so? I see a no.
Can you say it again?
Trying to swap items 8 and 9, so we would have the Moda Center item before the right turn on red item. And we are scheduled to go until 6 today. I'm seeing,
May I say?
Please.
Well, I'm just looking and seeing that we do have someone here to testify and signed up for that. And I am looking at my co-sponsor, Councilor Smith, for how you're feeling about this. But I know this is something that we were hoping to make sure is not skipped over or bumped today.
Council President, can I?
Yeah, Councilor Smith.
So are you going to do a hard stop at 4 o'clock for the Moda Center?
No, right now my intention is to have a hard stop at 6 o'clock.
No, I mean for us to have the appropriate amount of time. How much do you think you need, Councilor?
Our time requested is 45 minutes.
Okay. Will you have a hard stop at 5 o'clock with the Moda Center, no matter where you're at?
I'm not, it sort of depends on, there are, I think, 18 amendments filed to the Moda Center item. We must get through the Moda Center item today in order to make it for the final vote on the 12th. So that is my top concern. I cannot, at this moment, have no idea how much dialogue our councils want to have.
If it was going to be a time certain and we knew we were going to go an hour, I'm okay with the move. But if it's not going to be a time certain at, I don't want to do it because I want to make sure that we get this heard today.
Okay, so I have 2 colleagues who do not give unanimous consent on reordering the agenda. Councilor Colonel Guinea.
Council President, is this something that we could move to a vote?
Absolutely it is. Yeah, that is my next move. So I would like to move that we reorder our agenda and hear item 9 before item 8. And I would welcome a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor. Colleagues, is there any discussion of this motion?
Could you clarify what's 9?
Yes, item 9 is the MODA Center term sheet, and item 8 is the no right on red item. Seeing no further discussion, can we call the roll on the motion to reorder the agenda?
Moved by Dunphy, seconded by Pertle Guinea.
Yes.
Cleameline.
No.
Mario.
No.
Novick.
Regretfully, aye.
Clark.
No.
Green.
No.
Zimmerman.
Aye.
Avalos.
No.
Smith.
No.
Knoll.
Regretfully, aye.
Pertle Guinea.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Dunphy.
Aye.
The motion fails with a vote of 6 ayes and 6 nays.
Okey doke. We are moving forward with our agenda as is. I hope folks will help us get through in a timely
President,
manner.
why is it that the, point of order, excuse me.
Councilor Zimmerman.
Thank you. In this case, would the mayor not cast a vote here?
I don't know.
What was that? I didn't-
In this case, since it was a 6-6, would the mayor not cast a tie-breaking vote?
Procedural motion, not a final
Right.
vote.
Yeah, it's a procedural motion.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Could we please call item number 6?
Document 2026-242, amend the comprehensive plan map and zoning map for a vacant lot on Northwest 31st Avenue described as Willamette Heights Addition, Block 18, Lot 14, at the request of Portland Parks and Recreation, LU 26-007966 CPZC.
Colleagues, as you will recall, this item involves a change of a parcel owned by the Parks Bureau from open space to residential use to facilitate its sale and development. When we last heard this item, we approved a motion to tentatively approve the application for a comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment, and to uphold the recommendation of the hearings officer. And we asked staff to return with revised findings. Those findings have been filed and are before us today. As this is a legislative land use decision, council now considers the filing as an ordinance using our regular legislative process, and therefore today is the first reading of that ordinance. There's no further presentation, but are there any technical or clarifying questions from councilors? And Keelan, has anyone signed up to testify on this item?
No, it wasn't open to testimony. The
Okay, thank you.
record was closed.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, technical, clarifying, or council discussion on this item? Seeing none, this item now moves to second reading. Can we please call item number 7? What did I do?
Let me check. I think Lauren is online.
Yeah, we need to have.
Oh, hi, Lauren.
Here, hi, sorry. Council needs to amend, so as if you recall, council voted to adopt the hearings officer recommendation and directed staff to go back to write revised findings. And so staff has prepared those revised findings. Those are filed under the item. And so council needs to amend the ordinance to adopt the staff's revised findings and conclusions.
Oh, okay. None of that was in my notes. Great. So we need to amend this.
Yeah, I
We're
think,
doing item number 6, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay, yes, so that is a motion to, I will pull up what,
Motion to amend.
a motion to amend the ordinance to adopt the revised findings, and then it will roll to, after, and then a roll call vote, and then the item rolls to a second reading.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Canal. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Green, thank you. Is there discussion of the amendment, or amended item? Okay, now can we call roll on this?
yeah, this is a motion to amend the ordinance to include the updated finding, to amend the findings. Moved by Canal, seconded by Green. Cleameline.
Aye.
Mario.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
Aye.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Knoll.
Aye.
Pertle Guinea.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Dunphy.
Aye.
The amendment is approved with a vote of 12 ayes.
Okay, Lauren, just verifying, are we good now to move this to second reading?
Need to,
Yes, please announce a date and time certain.
Okay. And we need a date and time certain.
Yeah, we've got it for August 12th at 9:45 a.m., time certain.
Thank you very much.
Very quick final vote. Thank you.
August 12th, final vote. Great. Moves to second reading. Can we please call item 7?
Document 2026-189, amend city code and improve land use regulations through the Regulatory Improvement Code Amendment Package 11, amend code titles 32 and 33.
Colleagues, this is the second reading of a non-emergency ordinance. We've had a number of conversations about this. Is there any further council discussion? Seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Koyama Lane.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
Aye.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Knall.
Aye.
Portoghini.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Dunphy.
Aye.
The ordinance passes with a vote of 12 ayes.
Thank you very much. Can we please call item number 8?
Document 2026-213, direct the Portland Bureau of Transportation to evaluate and implement no turn on red restrictions at signalized intersections within the high crash network.
This is the first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. Claire Adamsick from Council Operations is here with a committee staff summary report. Claire, take it away.
Thank you, Council President and Councilors. For the record, Claire Adamsick, Council Policy Analyst and staff of the Public Works Committee. The ordinance before you, document number 2026-213, was heard in the Public Works Committee on June 23rd, where it was referred to full council with the recommendation to pass. The ordinance directs the Portland Bureau of Transportation, PBOT, to evaluate and implement no turn on red restrictions and install appropriate signage at signalized intersections within the city's high crash network. The ordinance directs PBOT to develop an initial implementation list of priority intersections within the high crash network where pedestrians, bicyclists, and other vulnerable road users face elevated safety risks. Within 90 days of ordinance adoption, PBOT shall deliver to council an implementation plan, including intersections identified, anticipated costs and proposed funding sources, installation timeline, education and outreach plan, and an equity analysis describing how implementation will prioritize communities most impacted by traffic violence. The ordinance directs PBOT to lead a public education and outreach campaign during initial project implementation. It also describes initial and ongoing enforcement measures led by PBOT and the Portland Police Bureau for traffic violations of posted no turn on red restrictions. No later than 1 year after the first implementation phase is completed, PBOT will report to council on the number of intersections where restrictions were installed, related costs, available compliance and safety data, community feedback, and any recommendations for expanding, modifying, or continuing the program. The ordinance also clarifies the city administrator will update corresponding procedures and administrative rules to carry out the directives of the ordinance. The full impact statement on this item includes information on financial and budgetary impacts and community involvement. No one submitted verbal testimony aside from invited testimony at the committee meeting, and one person submitted written testimony prior to committee action. The themes of that testimony included acknowledging that no turn on red is one tool within a broader system of intersection safety strategies, encouraging council to give PBOT clear direction while preserving the resources and flexibility needed to continue advancing other urgent Vision Zero priorities, and ensuring that the ordinance implementation considers staff capacity and a full cost assessment that includes all resource needs, including the costs of outreach and education. And that concludes the committee staff summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Vice President Clark, this came out of your committee. Any opening remarks?
Sure, just very, very briefly, because I know we're short on time, is that we had a great discussion. It really falls within our long-range goals on Vision Zero, and I think both the co-sponsors may want to add a word.
Thank you. So Councilors Smith or Koyama Lane, any further?
Thank you. Yeah, we had a great conversation about how to keep people safe who are walking, rolling, and riding in bikes, particularly in the high crash corridors in District 1. We know that if we can slow the speed down, we can eliminate some of the safety issues that we have in our district. And I like this as a pilot so that we can we can kind of direct what we're going to do and if it's working. But we do know that there are a majority of the crashes that we've seen here lately, they've been in the high crash corridor, and we want to use this as another tool in conjunction with the cameras that we can also put up. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to thank Vice Chair Smith, Vice Chair of our Public Works Committee, for your care about Vision Zero and for the safety of all of our constituents. Yeah, we had a good conversation at the committee, and while Oregon state law generally allows drivers to turn right on red lights after stopping, it also gives local jurisdictions the authority to restrict movement where safety conditions dictate. So I really appreciate that this legislation, which PBOT has been incredibly helpful with. Thank you so much, Shoshana and Director Williams. Thank you to advocates that have spoken up and been part of the discussion, and we're very collaborative with Councilor Smith's office and I. We have an amendment to change a couple pieces there. And I appreciate that the urgency of the ordinance it's really underscored by really stark local data and dire frequent accidents. In some cases, some of the worst still are 122nd Avenue and Halsey. So I appreciate that it focuses on areas where there's high crash data. It would prioritize intersections that include pedestrian head starts, bike boxes, where there's a lot of heavy foot bike traffic. And I appreciate that it's really clear with a rollout plan of 90 days. And so council will be hearing back. There's a piece of education that's part of it. And just really appreciate your partnership, Councilor Smith, and appreciate the entire Public Works Committee for supporting this in committee.
Thank you, Councilor. And Councilor, I understand, or I don't know who's going to introduce it, but I understand there's also an amendment that needs to be moved on this.
Yes. We have an amendment titled Koyama Lane Smith 1. And you can see there, it's redlined in there, and there are some specifications in there, and that explain that this is work as a pilot project. It explains that it focuses on 30 intersections where there's been high injuries. It specifies that the part of the pilot will happen, and then folks will return from PBOT to council to keep us updated and get some additional guidance. If you have more questions, feel free to let us know. There are just some specifications in there. I believe some of the costs is that from the Bureau explaining some of the, Director Williams and I. Yeah, so thank you so much for your partnership to make sure that those numbers are accurate. And should I move that? I'll move it now, or do you want me to?
Why don't we get to technical clarifying questions from councilors, get testimony, and then I'll turn to you for the amendment.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, so technical or clarifying questions at this point. Councilor Novick.
Thank you, Mr. President. One question I had is, how many no right turn on red locations do we have now? I just want to give the public an understanding of whether adding 30 would be tripling the number or adding 1% to the number.
Peter Kuntz, Signals and Street Lighting Division Manager. We have approximately 200 locations where we're doing some level of no turn on red currently.
Okay. Also, I mean, just a little Googling I did suggested that this is not a reason to vote no, but it suggested that there aren't that many fatal crashes in right turn and red because people are going slowly, but there are crashes, but they tend not to be of the fatal variety.
Yes, that's a correct statement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Novick. Vice President Clark.
I don't have a question. I was just going to speak to the amendment.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
I really appreciate the amendment. I appreciate that you put the words in pilot because I think it is rather an experiment, and we'll get feedback back from PBOT. So I'm supportive of the amendment.
Thank you, Vice President Clark. Councilor Pertolini.
Thank you, Council President. I have some questions that I'll ask after public testimony, but I'm seeing both a Coyote 1 and a Coyote 2 filed that look like they have some overlap, but some difference. Councilor Coyote referred just to a Coyote 1, and I'm wondering if we can get some clarity on whether our colleagues plan to move one or both of these and what the differences are between them before the public testifies.
Thank you. I have Alan De La Torre from my staff here also. We're messaging because we worked with folks at PBOT to make a couple other changes. And so now I'm understanding that Coyote Smith 2 adds a couple of those. We will just need to move that one.
So we should not be looking at Coyote Smith 1. We should expect that you'll be moving just Coyote Smith 2. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for asking. And if you look, you can also see, I think they tried to use colors in a certain way to show that they had added it on, but we will just be moving Coyote Smith 2. You can just look at that one. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councilor Pertolini. Councilor Zimmerman.
Thank you. I don't know where the staff went, but what constitutes a high crash corridor? And during a last pilot, when was the last time PBOT ever reversed anything it did in the roadway related to, based on the public input?
We have staff who can come back on up to the table, please.
Bueller?
Sorry, we were
All good.
trying to decide who was going to answer the question. Wendy Cawley, PBOT City Traffic Engineer. The first question was, how do you define a high crash corridor? So about 15 years ago now, we did a mapping exercise and looked at data to see which corridors in the city had the highest number of crashes. And since then, we've refined that. We now have different segments, but the high crash network is still based on data that talks about the number of crashes and, more importantly, the severity of crashes, number of fatalities, and pedestrians and bicyclists involved. So we have a map on our website that has 30 high crash corridors identified. They're typically our 4 and 5 lane roadways in East Portland.
So then to assume that the other 200 that you cited just a few minutes ago are all high crash corridor, no turn on rights?
No.
They're varied. We have a lot of reasons for putting in.
I don't need answers from here. I'm asking the staff, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of reasons for why we would put in a no turn on red. We put them in where we have bike boxes. We put them in where there are conflicting movements, different phasing for different signals. So you can't make a right on red if there's a bike phase signalized there, because it would just conflict with another signalized movement. So we have a variety of reasons why we put them in. They're not always on the high crash network. They're at a variety of intersections depending on what's there.
I appreciate that. I think the reason I'm asking questions is I think that this amendment may be what gets me there on the overall, right? With it being, moving from originally was all intersections to 30. And within a high crash, or now it says high injury network. So that's different. So what's a high injury network?
It's basically the same thing. We've changed terminology over the years, and now we have just recently in the past couple of years, we're looking at a tiered injury network. So instead of maybe including all of Outer Stark, we're including just segments of Stark where we are seeing the highest number of vision
And
zero
are
crashes.
any of these 30 in District 4?
Yes, the original 30, yes. There are some in District 4. There was Terwilliger for bike crashes, Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, Southwest Barber.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I asked earlier was, you mentioned a lot of pilot and public input and yada, yada, yada. So I'm just curious to when the last time you reversed anything after you did something, then got public input and said that wasn't working when it comes to one of these types of experiments.
The no right turn on red at 3rd and Alder.
Okay.
We did that recently based on community input. Folks who are most prominently placed in this neighborhood and who were experiencing challenges with people accessing their facilities. And so we made the adjustment. We worked with our partners at TriMet. We ensured that we were not disrupting anything else by undoing that restriction, and opened up the lane and created a smoother experience for everyone using it.
Okay.
And that was just, what, 6 months ago, maybe?
Thank you for
Here
that.
you
I
have
think
another
those are good examples. I think that,
Oh, Millicent Williams, for the record. Director,
is that you, Millicent? I see.
It is, just in case you weren't clear.
No, I appreciate that. I think that one of the questions I came in originally with was, since I'm experiencing no right turns all over the district, I don't know what the point of this was. And so it sounds like this is an emphasis for, particularly for some outer East Portland areas, but I think the fact that you've moved it to a pilot and just a select 30 is helpful, because I've seen a city that's put in 200 no rights already, and not for high crash reasons. So this seemed, I wasn't exactly sure what we were doing here originally, but I think your amendment is good. And I appreciate you bringing it forward, Councilor. Thank you.
Councilor, another location where we removed something that we implemented was at 4th and Main. After completing the 4th Avenue project, again, from stakeholders in the community that were concerned about access to their facilities.
Yeah, lots of improvements to make on 4th Avenue.
Well, but
see
we got to
people-
start somewhere, and we started there.
I'm now experiencing dump trucks playing slalom every single morning, and garbage trucks playing slalom with people and bikes and cars because of some of those changes. So I hope that when we say public input for improvements, we mean it.
We do mean it.
Because yikes.
Yeah, it's a lot of opportunities for folks to continue to learn how to best use the system when we make those types of changes. And so we'll continue to do our work to ensure that the system works the way that we intend.
Any potential changes?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zimmerman. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for coming up, Director Williams. And this was an attempt for me and Councilor Kayama Lane to meet some of the Vision Zero promises that we made, which was making sure that Portland's commitment to eliminating traffic deaths cannot just be a policy goal. It requires proactive engineering changes that physically separate people from the vehicles. And I want to go back to what Kathy said earlier. The national statistics say that this no turn on red, it has a 9% decrease in traffic accidents. So I know you said that there was no number to it, but it is, out of every 100, we could possibly save about 10 people's lives. Now, those may not be the lives that you want to save, but there are 10 lives that we're attempting to make sure that we save in the city of Portland, because it makes a big difference when we can actually get people to stop and to think, because we also know that speed kills, and if we could turn down the speed, that is another reason for doing the no turn on red. We have a lot of vulnerable communities out in East Portland, pedestrians, cyclists, and community members in wheelchairs, and they bear the brunt of no turn on red crashes, which result in severe injuries and sometimes tragic deaths. So I want to make sure that those injuries that we have, that we can eliminate those, and those fatalities that we have, we can also try to eliminate those as well. But what we don't track those near misses of people who are trying to turn red when bikes are coming down. We don't track those. So we don't know how many near misses we're preventing. And I think this will give us an opportunity to collect some of that data too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. Putting myself in the queue, I have a quick question. I appreciate that this amendment that is before us narrows it down to a pilot. Sometimes pilots are driven off of not necessarily the highest need, but the one that makes the most sense for measuring and things like that. And I suspect I know the answer to this. I just want to hear it on the record. Is East Portland going to be well represented in this pilot process?
I suspect it will, because we are looking at signalized intersections that have the highest number of crashes. And many of the 4-lane arterials out in East Portland are consistently on that high crash intersection list.
Absolutely. It is a, all three of I assumed, since Councilor Smith is one of the chief sponsors of this, I assumed that would be the case. I just wanted to hear it on the record officially, because East Portland, we are unpaved roads that are connecting freeways. That is truly the infrastructure we have out there, is nothing in between. So that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I would love to see this.
Not much of one.
We at least get not a quarter. I'm coming for half. Thank you. That is my only technical question. Councilor Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. First, on 4th Avenue, what I experience is the no left turn. Yeah, because it goes this direction, doesn't it? Yeah, and so when I'm trying to take a left on Jefferson, I can't go until the bikes go.
Well, that's because of the infrastructure that we have on 4th.
I just wanted to say,
That's intentional.
I don't experience right turns much on 4th, just thought I'd say that. Hardware question, are these metal signs or the lighted electric ones?
I didn't hear the first part of your question.
They're metal signs.
Okay.
Those
I
are,
thought maybe you were
they're high intensity, so when headlights hit them, they pop extra bright.
Oh, the ones with the lights around them?
They don't have lights on them, but it's just a really high intensity reflective sheeting that is on those signs.
There are some with the little lights around them, right? Or did someone just do that?
We don't do those on.
I have some in my neighborhood.
We don't do those on the no turn on red signs.
Okay.
There are some stop signs around town that have some lights in the borders.
Got it. All right. Since the price seemed to go up a lot from the first time I looked at this to second time, maybe I thought you were going to tell me it was much more expensive hardware.
The price went up when we had the opportunity to re-engage in the conversation about the actual cost of doing the work. There was some reevaluation of what was necessary and just a level setting of expectations.
Overarching, it seems like these amendments are the fact that PBOT and the sponsors got together and just cleaned some things up, right? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan. Keelan, is there anyone signed up to testify on this item?
We have one person signed up,
Thank you all.
Mike Dennis.
Welcome, Mike. Come on up. Introduce yourself for the record.
Hello, everyone. Mike Dennis with Oregon Walks. Thank you, Councilor Dunphy and Vice President Council Clark and all members here. I'll be very brief. With Oregon Walks, we want to support the no right on red and want to lend our support as well to the amendment, and that's amendment number 2. Just had a chance to look at that. Really pleased to see this going forward. We'll be back later. I'm happy to answer questions. If any of you have questions, can talk individually. We can share some of the data we have. We know that no right on red is a proven tool. Very pleased that this is going to be in a pilot situation like we talked about. And finally, I just want to acknowledge and thank Councilors Koyama Lane and Councilor Smith for working together. The teamwork, the collaboration really makes a difference, and want to thank Elijah and Alan as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Colleagues, we are now into discussion, and I'm going to recognize Councilor Koyama Lane.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to move Koyama Lane Smith Amendment 2. This amendment updates the original policy to focus on delivering 30 intersections before PBOT comes back to Council for additional direction. And the amendment also updates costs for each intersection. And I would appreciate a second.
Second.
Councilor Koyama Lane moves, Koyama Lane Smith 2, and Councilor Smith seconds. Colleagues, discussion of the amendment. Councilor Novick, is that a legacy?
Yes.
Okay. And Councilor Purtle-Guinea.
I noticed that the amendment has significantly increased costs per intersection. Is that because the original estimates of cost were off and this is just updated and more accurate? Or is that because we're now looking at a more extensive infrastructure for these specific intersections?
Welcome back up, staff. Yeah, there we go. Director Williams.
Thank you so much for the question, Councilor Purtle-Guinea. The estimate that's been provided is based on the team's assessment of what's required. The earlier number that was provided was an estimate based on a different set of data, but when we were able to go back and help the councilors understand what was actually required to do the work, the estimate more appropriately reflects what's necessary to do the work at each intersection.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Purtle-Guinea. Further discussion of the amendment? Seeing no one in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Koyama Lane Smith 2?
Moved by Koyama Lane, seconded by Smith. Koyama Lane.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
Aye.
Davalos.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Null.
Aye.
Purtle-Guinea.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Dunphy.
Aye.
The amendment is approved with a vote of 12 ayes.
Colleagues, to the now amended underlying amendment ordinance, is there any further discussion? Councilor Green.
I just want to say thanks to the sponsors for identifying this policy as an urgent item. I think this is a matter of public safety, and I really appreciate your willingness to continue to say, let's make forward progress on this issue, even if we can't solve it all at once. I see it across the sort of policies that y'all are taking in this view. Councilor Smith, this is related to SIP in my mind, and so I'm connecting that piece together. So I just want to say thanks, and I'm really happy to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Purtle-Guinea.
Thank you, Council President. I just have two questions to pull out some information that I'm guessing was discussed earlier in the process. And I'm not sure if these are questions for the sponsors or maybe for our experts at the Bureau. But I'd love to hear a little bit about how this policy was chosen and what data we have about crashes at intersections like this and how no turn on red helps to address some of the data that we see around where fatal or very dangerous crashes are most likely to happen.
Councilor Purtle-Guinea, would you like me to answer how I came up with it?
Happy to hear from you, and it looks like we have somebody from the Bureau as well. Yes,
So
both are great.
Well, a lot of the reason why I came up with this was because I think District 1 and District 2 had more deaths and had higher crash corridors in our districts. And I was trying to figure out a way how to use Vision Zero to decrease those numbers. And then when I saw that 9% through the no turn on red, it could cut it down by 9%. No, it's not the silver bullet that you would want of a 50 or 60%, but when you're thinking about that and thinking about, and I was doing some stuff with Midway, Division Midway out there, and I was walking and doing a business tour, and I was frightened out there. There is a no turn on red on Division and 122nd, but on some of the streets out there on 122nd, out in East Portland, they don't have them, and I was like, I need to do something to keep folks from being afraid to walking in the neighborhoods. And we want to also, when we work with PBOT, is to also identify those areas where it can be safe for kids, safe routes for school, to make sure that it's going to coincide with other things that we have going on to make it safe as people who are walking, seniors. And the conversations that we had, we talked to a lot of organizations, and we talked to folks who work with and who provide senior housing out there. They don't want to go outside. And so when you have people speeding down the street and they have no reason to stop, or they're doing those California right turns, and which for some people who don't know what that is, they don't ever stop. They just kind of slow down a little bit and then they turn. This will make folks stop, hopefully.
You don't like the California roll stop, Counselor?
Well, and I've been guilty of it too, so that's how I know, but it's just, it's not safe. I mean, it is really not safe.
I'd love to hear some of the data from PBOT as well.
Yeah, so as Councilor Smith mentioned, we do see a 9% reduction in crashes when no turn on red is installed, and that's based on national studies. We follow a lot of national studies when we look at our safety treatments, and so you'll be hearing a little bit more about this next week with the Vision Zero Action Plan, PBOT's Vision Zero Action Plan update, when we dig into different strategies for safety at intersections and how when you may have one countermeasure like a no turn on red that's 9%, but when you layer it with other things like reflective backplates for traffic signals and you start doing that systemically across the city, you start to drive down crashes across the city. So,
great, thank you.
May I also respond?
Yes.
Another piece of why this is important, the no turn on red, and specifically the way it is in this ordinance, is because it does focus on high injury, high crash areas. And we know that in Portland, I think it's about 8% of the streets account for the majority of traffic deaths. I think it's about 62%. So that paired with the focusing the intervention on also making sure it's targeted is important.
Thank you all. I was glad to see something come forward for us that wasn't just focused on speed limits, but that was really looking at what are some of the targeted places where we need to have different interventions. And this is an interesting one to me because it sounds like the interplay is so different in different districts. Councillor Smith, you've talked about the thoroughfare streets, and when I think about the need for this in District 2, I first go to thinking about our industrial corridors, where if you're turning on a red, you're trying to jet out amidst a steady flow of traffic, including a lot of trucks and other larger vehicles. And there aren't as many pedestrians, but when there are pedestrians there, I think that risk factor goes up pretty significantly because of the type of traffic you're interacting with. So I hope that as this is implemented and as pilot locations are chosen, our folks at the Bureau are thinking about the way this might be implemented differently in different parts of town, and how having our representative council can help us think a little bit more of a nuanced way about how we implement these types of interventions across the city. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councillor Pertolini. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Pertolini. Is Dana here? Dana does a great email. She sends out an email of all the crashes. Do you all look at that email, or do you just cross over it?
It's so depressing.
It can be. So I'm looking at this just to give you all an example. She sent the latest one out on August 3rd. And so she separates the traffic deaths by council districts. So for District 1, traffic deaths calendar from year to date is 11. District 2 is 5. District 3 is 6. District 4 is 6. So we nearly have twice the number of traffic deaths in District 1 than any other place around the city. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that we could get some resources to kind of slow that down a bit. And so I just want to thank you, Dana, for you give this information and it comes out every week, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you putting this all together, because this gives us a snapshot of what's happening. Are there any other things that you want to tell the council about in terms of the no turn on red? And
I would just echo a lot of the things that have been said here, being able to focus on areas where we do have those repeated injuries and fatalities, where we have a history of crashes, is really beneficial. And also echoing what Wendy Colley said, that being able to layer that with other interventions. I'm excited to see this as a start, to be looking at implementing more no turn on red and then seeing where we can go next with it.
And you all saw all the TV news on Friday, July 31st, when a person on a motorcycle was killed in a crash on eastbound exit 10 of I-84 to Northeast 122nd. And this crash occurred during the nighttime. And so it was a major crash, and it appears that the motorcycle came from eastbound I-84 at a high rate of speed. And like I said, that high rate of speed, and that person did not slow down enough to kind of manage the curve. So the motorcycles applied brakes late and crashed into the barrier with speed and likely died on impact. There's a lot going on, that there are a lot of chances that people are taking in East Portland that are not, that don't impact some of the places like in District 3 and District 2. So for me, this is really personal, and we have to stop all the fatalities that are happening in District 1.
Yeah, thank you.
And I want to use this just as a tool. It's like I said, it's not the silver bullet, but it is a tool to see if we can curb the speed and what happens out there. And thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. Councilor Koyamaleen.
I also want to highlight the folks from the city that have been really helpful. Dana Dickman, Shoshana, Director Williams, thank you so much. Thank you to folks from Families for Safe Streets, especially Sarah Risser, for helping us think about the amendment. Folks from Oregon Walks, Verde, different folks from neighborhood associations that played a role in looking at this, giving feedback and engaging in different ways, whether it was kind of more broadly about this or also specifically helping us with the amendment. And I really appreciate that Mike Dennis thanked our staff, because Elijah, you have been amazing. You have, I know my team throws a lot at you, and we've are trying to track you down and also teamsing you, and you have been great. And same with Alan, and thank you for both of you for working together. And thank you, Councilor Smith, for your leadership on this and your focus. I know that when you are focused on something, you stick with it, and I'm so glad that you are focused on Vision Zero, and I love your Vision Zero orange today.
Thank you, Councilor Koyamaleen. Colleagues, seeing no one else in the queue for discussion, this item is now moving to second reading. Can we please call our last item for the day?
Item 9, document 2026-280, authorize a non-binding term sheet with RIP City Management LLC and Trailblazers Holdings LLC, outlining the terms for Moda Center Arena renovation, operating, and lease agreements that will keep the Portland Trailblazers playing in Portland for at least 20 more years.
Thank you. Colleagues, yesterday we heard invited and public testimony on the proposed term sheet resolution. Today is reserved for council discussion on the underlying and to consider amendments, several of which have been filed yesterday and overnight. Before we get into that, I'd like to start by bringing up Deputy City Administrator Oliveira, if he's in the room. Nope. Okay, I'm bringing up, he's probably still coming back from the county's conversation. So I'm going to bring up Kristen Dennis to give us a,
Sorry, I'm not ready to.
You're not ready either. Okay, great, cool. Do we have anybody any staff in the room to help us with some synopsis of the changes that have been made to the term sheet since our last work session, and to update us on the legislative action by our friends at the county? Anybody here available yet? Sorry.
Thank you, Council President. I'm wondering if people are coming back from the county now, if it might be a smart time to take just a tiny break for the staff to set up. Looks like they're all filtering in.
I don't have them in front of me. Do you have them?
Let's see.
Are you guys in
Ken, do you feel okay to give me an update, or do you want to?
Well, Ken McGarrett for the record from the City Attorney's Office. I don't have them in front of me, the changes, but, and Donnie is still in the county meeting, but essentially we added some references to strengthen the position of the fire as a sublessee, Portland Fire as a sublessee. We changed references to the MOU to definitive agreements because we're going to skip that interim step in the event that the term sheet passes, and we are moving towards something for the end of the year. We wanted to kind of get into the meat of the negotiation of the actual definitive agreements. We took out a reference in the exhibit, I believe, to or in the term sheet to one of the community partners that was referenced. And I can't remember the others, but they were essentially ministerial things, cleanup that we had heard from most, if not all of you.
Okay. One of the ideas that's been raised in some of the pre-filed amendments has to do with the composition and responsibilities of the joint authority. That joint authority is going to be incredibly important to all of our future decision-making as it relates to the Moda Center. Council has clearly expressed some concern about the responsibilities of that body and how the city's legislative branch will be involved moving forward. Could you speak a little bit about the status of the joint authority's development and to some of the concerns that have been raised in the amendments?
Of course. Thank you, Councilor. And that is actually one of the other kind of small changes that was made in the term sheet, was to add a reference that the City Council will appoint members to the joint authority. We are in the process of yet another term sheet with the state, forming the joint authority, kind of the parameters, just like this term sheet that sets the high-level parameters of how that's going to function. The current kind of framework, and it changes from day to day, is now adding the county into that joint authority.
Funny.
Speak of the devil. Adding the county into the joint authority, and also kind of the parameters around how the joint authority will function, not just with regards to oversight of the arena renovation project, but oversight of the ongoing operations after the project is complete. The current kind of thinking would be, and Donnie can chime in here, a 7-member joint authority with 3 members appointed by the state, 3 members appointed by the city, and 1 member appointed from the county. From that group of 7, the 7 would create a chair. The actual constitution of that authority is TBD for the intergovernmental agreement that will be formalizing what the joint authority is. And then from that, the joint authority will figure out who's involved in helping to negotiate with the Trailblazers on behalf of the joint authority, and how that's going to function in terms of relationship with the joint authority and the city. As you guys all know, the city owns the building, owns the property, so we have a little bit more of a, what I would call, first position. The state may not, but that's kind of the way we see it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Donnie Oliveira for the record. So, councilors, I've been in government for a long time, but this is a first. I am concurrently in this meeting with you and also still in the county commission meeting right now. So,
double government.
Yeah.
Good work.
Doing double duty right now. Along with what Ken just reviewed, and if I say things that duplicate, I'm sorry. One of the other more material changes is in the table in Exhibit D. We reflected the ongoing contributions to be a maximum contribution versus it being just dependent directly on revenues. So this just clarifies that in those years that the Spectator Venue Fund is making beyond the contribution that was committed, those additional revenues would stay within the city, not just default to the Moda Center. So there's that piece. It sounded like you touched a little bit about the WNBA standards. So that was a material change that we worked with the fire leadership on. And then we also, as you know, we have a resolution coming next week through City Life, but we were more clear about Albina Vision Trust's role as a development partner, and that's included in the CBA component. And it sounded like you touched on the joint authority pieces as well.
Thank you. All right, colleagues who are jumping into the queue, I just want to check, are we questions for Donnie or Ken, or is it amendments? Councilor Smith? Okay. Councilor Knoll? Okay. Councilor Green? Amendments. Thank you. Councilor Avalos? Councilor Maria?
Yes, I have a question for you, Ken. I think there was an interview yesterday with K2 that Mayor Wilson did that talked about some negotiations that happened in March and maybe some promises that were made to the NBA. Can we get any clarity on what promises were already made to the NBA in March, and is that in writing anywhere?
I don't have any knowledge of any promises that were made to the NBA. I wasn't involved in things in March, so I'll defer to Donnie or anybody from the administration.
Are you interested in my response, Counselor? Okay. I think what happened in March, and actually going back a few months before that, is as we were ramping up towards the short session, there was a conversation about how would the various components of at this point we're in that range of 500, 600 that you've heard about, renovation, what the different components would be. So I think there was a general consensus that the state would contribute their amount, and it'd be about 365 million, and the city would have approximately 120 million, and the state would make up the difference of that. Those were general commitments as a framework, but we continued to acknowledge at that time that there were a lot of steps to be made both on the city side and the county side to make those dollars real. That was always communicated to the Blazers. It was clear, I think, in SB 1501. So framework, yes, but commitments hard. We're clearly in the middle of trying to solve that right now.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. I do want to sort of level set for my colleagues as we enter this conversation today that there is the negotiating team, which is the administration and your team that is working on that. But we are the budget authority of this government, and nothing goes through this council without our authority, especially when it comes to commitment of dollars. So as far as I'm aware, the other side has not even made any updates on what they think about our term sheet. So I am living in a world where I get to make a term sheet that I think is good for the public, and then they can negotiate that down later if they want. But we are the stewards of the public dollars, and we need to act like that today in what we're choosing to bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Maria. Councilor Pertolini.
Thank you, Council President. The overview of the changes was a little disjointed there, so I just want to make sure I've captured the categories correctly, and I think this is important because we were in work session before. We don't have an annotated copy posted for the public to see. So there were provisions added to make sure that the term sheet includes the necessary WNBA standards and the work that our Portland Fire needs. There were some changes made around the MOU step because given the lack of formal response from Rip City management, it doesn't make sense to have that interim step right now. There was the removal of one of the parties that was explicitly named in the community benefits agreement section. I believe that was 1803 fund. There was some clarification in Exhibit D that is a maximum amount, which I think originally was stated, but not as clearly as it is now. So not a content change there, but a specification. And then there are the changes to the joint authority given the feedback that we've heard from the county. Are there any other changes that people should be looking for in this term sheet compared to what we were basing our discussion on last week?
I think those are the material changes. There were some smaller nuance like added context, but the context that existed in the public, for example, things like that the new ownership group accepted the terms of the current non-relocation agreement in March of 26 when they assumed ownership, details that just clarify our
things
our
that build the case for why we have the term sheet that we do, not things that change the terms within the term sheet.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Councilor Pertolini. So, colleagues, as we're going to move into some conversations around amendments, I just want to note, I really believe that this council has done a commendable job under highly unusual circumstances to consider and contribute to a term sheet that will be a clear demonstration of our seriousness at the negotiating table. As you know, this is a fragile time in this work. My office had asked councilors to craft amendments in conversation with the professional negotiating team, not as a veto point on council, but because every word and comma matters in this document. And the people who will execute this delicate work need to have a hand in creating the tools that they're being told to use. My priority remains putting forward a term sheet that sets us up for success and centers the priorities of the people of Portland. This term sheet is not a blank check. I believe that it empowers our negotiators to represent our most urgent priorities as they work towards a deal in December that will also pass muster with our body before a lease is signed. There are some ideas in these amendments that I really like, and some that I want to know more about, and some that I disagree with. However, I am not going to be able to support any of them today. I have asked Kristen Dennis, who has been working with council and my team on this process, to work with the negotiating team on reviewing the ideas that are raised today and to potentially come back next week with an amendment that considers any final adjustments reflecting council priorities to the resolution language or the term sheet. But that being said, today is our time to introduce these amendments. I am planning on recognizing councilors to introduce their amendments in the order that they were filed, with one exception for two amendments that are very similar, so I'll ask that those be brought up together. And so to start, I would like to recognize Councilors Green and Avalos for Green Avalos 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I've filed Green Avalos 1, which does two substantive things, and then it does some adjustments in the impact statements of the underlying resolution that, while I don't think lack substance, I'm focusing right now on the Exhibit A. So I'll speak to the first two adjustments in Exhibit A. The first of these is just adding some clarity in the footnotes. On page 1, there's a second footnote and I think Kristen and others have already described that some of these adjustments have been made to reflect some of my priorities, which I appreciate, which is just really clarifying the authority of the city council to appoint members to the joint authority. And what first part of the amendment does is also add the language and remove members from the joint authority. I think previously I'd raised concerns about us moving forward on a funding package with exactly zero information about what our public dollars are buying. Just trust us. And where we're at in this stage is all of the buck will stop with the joint authority. And so it's very important that we have language that clarifies that the joint authority has both the duty and the power to exercise discretion in the public interest, and the accountability is by allowing council to both appoint and remove members. So that you'll see that first adjustment in the second footnote on page 1, just minor. On page 2, in the body of the clause on the role of joint authority, it adds the sentence, as a custodian of public funds, the joint authority will condition approval of funds for use in the renovation based upon open and transparent review of plans, specification, budget, and scope to ensure that funds are deployed in the public interest. That's still quite broad. It's probably broader than I would prefer in there, but I think it's fair in this moment. So those are the joint authority related aspects of the amendment. I think the big meatier part of this amendment you'll find on page 5, which is the clause titled Funding for Post-Renovation Operations. The amendment strikes that clause entirely. And the reason why is, colleagues, we have been talking about this project being in the neighborhood of $600 million. That has been what we have talked to the public about in basically every venue that we have officially. More precisely, the number is 573 now. And it is constituted based upon $365 million from the state of Oregon, authorized in SB 1501. The city's commitment verbally of $120 million locally, and then $88 million from the county. Okay, that gets you to the 573. So we have been talking to the public that this is a $573 million project. But what this clause does is says this deal is actually an $848 million project, because we are committing basically the entirety of the Moda Center contribution in the Spectator Facility Fund, which are those numbers in Exhibit D. In the work session on June 22nd, I had asked about more detail on the Spectator Facilities Fund and whether or not, if I could get a sense of a pro forma of that. And so DCA Oliveira and his team did send that to all of our offices. And I looked at that spreadsheet. And what that spreadsheet shows you is that the current bridge lease agreement and what has been rolled forward into this term sheet is a commitment that all of the average revenue received from the Moda Center related ticket fees and the parking garage accumulates to this thing called Moda contribution. And that sums up to $267 million over the course of 20 years. Now, attachment D, Exhibit D, is 275, which includes the Veterans Facility IGA. And so just to be conservative, I calculated, well, what if we didn't pre-commit that and kept it in the Spectator Facilities Fund? And I'm going to share my screen, and here are the results. All right, making me do math here. Counselor Smith, I know that's something you don't like to do at the dais, but I did it off dais. But on the screen, you see a spreadsheet, and I'm going to zoom in to the right. So for each fiscal year, 27 through 28, you get the sum of Moda Center user fees, Blazers parking, and VMC NOP, and that is what we currently allocate to the Moda Center contribution. And it starts at $8.8 million in FY27, and it escalates at 3% cumulatively through 2046 over 20 years. And if we were to issue a bond for the $120 million, that I have had a heartache around, okay? I don't want to spend PSEF money on that. I don't want to spend general funding on that. And I've been asking, how else can we finance this? And I've been told there's nothing in the Spectators Facility Fund. And the reason why there's nothing in the Spectators Utilities Fund is because we're pre-committing it to some future $275 million expense. But if we didn't, and we said, let's issue a bond against our revenue there, not only could we fund the $120 million, which would get me over the line and get me to yes on the term sheet, we would also have money accruing and collecting to do other future upgrades as well over the course of this thing. And then, but that would be based upon a needs-based assessment. That would be based upon someone coming with an actual use case to say, hey, we want to do this upgrade. We think it'll be good for the WNBA, or we think it'll be great for this concert, or we think this would be a really timely value add. That's an ask that can be made to the council, and we could support it with these revenues. But if we give it away now, what we have done is we've said, forget about 573. We're in it for $848 million, and that's before interest. And that's not a market deal. In fact, the next market deal will be worse for every other city if we go down this road. And so what I'm telling you is if we were to adopt this amendment, then I could get yes on the term sheet. And this is my pathway to getting yes on the term sheet, which would fund the jobs, it'd fund the project, it'd unlock the state money that I have been such a hard case about. So that's my proposal to you. Elsewhere in the amendment, I'm striking parts of the financial impact, the impact analysis, which are unsubstantiated, or claims that are just made by impact analyses that every time I've asked for the underlying data, I'm told, sorry, that's under an NDA. You'll just have to trust me. That doesn't belong in a financial and impact analysis. So that's my case. I welcome your questions.
And are you formally moving?
I'm formally moving Green Avalos 1.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. And Councilor Avalos, as this is a co-sponsored item, would you like to speak to this as well?
I think Councilor Green laid it out. Thank you so much. I will just add, it's really important that the public understand what the city's true commitment is, because again, we keep saying 120. We heard a lot of testimony say, oh, it's 120 divided by 20 years, yada, yada, yada. No, it's really 400 million. And I think this, it makes sense for us to not pre-commit, especially given that we're operating blind here with no information. I don't think we should pre-commit another almost 300 million. And that also takes away from other things that we could be paying for, not only Moda, but other venues. And so, yeah, I urge support. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos. Colleagues, to the Green Avalos 1 amendment. Councilor Canal. I'm just going through the queue. Yeah, let's hop out of the queue if you don't want to talk to the amendment. And I will.
Yeah, so really big picture, before getting into this specific amendment, I think I agree with everything Councilor Murillo said earlier about what this conversation is. The way I would describe it is, if we're in the video game, we're not at the big boss yet, right? Because we haven't gotten to a point where we're negotiating with the Blazers. We are looking at what we're even able to ask for, even able to put on the table. And this conversation is what we've been putting on the table. And it reflects what we've been asking the administration to put into the term sheet. Not everything we've asked for has been put into the term sheet, even if there may have been majority support. We haven't actually had a chance to express majority support because this is that time. So that's been kind of frustrating, and I am surprised and dismayed by the idea that we wouldn't even evaluate amendments now on their merit unless the mayor's team agrees with them. So I have to just express that, and I would ask everyone here to reconsider that position and look at each of these on their merits, because it's not going to, this is what we want to even be discussed, not even what we want the outcome to be, just what we want to be discussed. So I had to express that first because it's context for this amendment. First, I really appreciate, Councilor Green, the way you articulated why we need to change the impact statement, because it's a lot of vibes, it's a lot of trust me, bro. And we need to move past that and get to where there's data. We've talked about this in so many other contexts, including in the items we talked in this morning's committee, the whole meeting about, that we need data before we base decisions off of it. I also very strongly support the increase, the additional text added in the custodian of funds, the joint authority definition on page 2 and the footnotes. I have a little heartache about the idea of removing the post-renovation operations, but what I appreciate is that there is still money left that can be allocated to it. It's just that it's not a pre-commitment. I appreciate that. Furthermore, I don't know how $75 million of the $120 million can be funded right now. We've received absolutely no information showing us another funding source besides the possibility of $45 million in BLT and $5 million in from up to $5 million from Prosper, with the rest being theoretically PSEF, but absolutely no information to show eligibility for PSEF funding. And so without creating a possible funding source to bond against, we might be in the position of being asked to commit $120 million that we cannot possibly get from any source other than the general fund. And if we take it from the general fund, there's 4 big buckets there: police, fire, parks, homelessness services. Can't see us cutting from police or fire for this, and you can bet that there's going to be issues about cutting parks in the context of the levy. And obviously the person proposing it would be someone who's a champion for the homelessness services, so where does it come from? And so the reason I'll be supporting this amendment, despite the heartache about that section, is that we have to have an option, and as time has passed, there's nothing given to us. There's just no information given as to where this money can possibly come from. So it's on us, the same way that the city is in the position of finding solutions at some places for the Blazers because of a lack of communication. Now the city council is in the position of having to come up with solutions because the administration has not proposed a credible funding source yet for anything other than those first $45 million. So this doesn't commit us to doing it this way. It commits us to putting it on the table, and I'll be supporting it for that reason. Thank you, Councilors Green and Avalos.
Thank you, Councilor Canal. Councilor Murillo.
Thank you. I am generally supportive of this amendment, so I will be a yes on it. I think it puts us in a better place. I don't think any of this term sheet is my dream whatsoever, but I think that some of these items can put us in a better place. Before we begin that discussion, though, I do have questions for my colleagues with regards to what we're actually here for today. Since the other side has not evaluated our term sheet or given us any feedback, I checked to make sure that it didn't come in 10 minutes before this meeting. Under what pretenses are people choosing to not approve any amendment on its merits? And that's a question for you, Council President, and I will have follow-up questions for Mayor Wilson as well.
Point of order, Mr. President. Are we talking about the Green Avalos amendment right now?
We are.
So I think the conversation that we're having now is not about this. It's about a general function of what we're going to do. So can you
The reason
get
I
us
believe
back on?
the reason I believe that this is a relevant question to ask is because any discussion of any amendment necessitates that this question be answered. Because if we have not received any feedback from the other side as to the term sheet, then anything and everything is on the table. So we need to be very clear right now with ourselves and with the public as to why some of us are going to be a hard no on all amendments. I want to know what information was received that made that the condition of your negotiation, because it's very different from the condition of mine.
Is that a question specifically for me?
You were the one that stated you
That
will
is
be
true.
not voting for anything, so yes, but I presume some of our other colleagues may have the same analysis.
Yeah, I stated my position on it at this point. I want to make sure we are in the strongest negotiating position, and I don't think that amending the term sheet in this regard, when we haven't had any conversation with with the Blazers, is the right decision for us. That's just how I believe.
Based on what evidence?
Honestly, it is what I am believing at this moment. I will vote how I see fit, ultimately.
Yeah, you are allowed to do that.
I know.
Mayor Wilson, has the NBA at any point told you that this negotiation is a no-go if we ask for some of these amendments, or if we ask for private contribution of funds, which is commonplace in every other city that has had this type of deal?
There's nothing written down, but we used our discussions with the NBA to frame what a market rate deal is currently across the nation. And then we used a third-party consultant to verify that we had a market rate deal that was acceptable through the NBA and the team at the time.
Well, the decision of what is a market rate deal is not really based on the personal opinions of those who would benefit from such a deal. It's based on the evidence of what has happened across the country with all of these stadium deals. And based on the analysis that we got last night from not one, but two renowned economists nationwide on this, we are nowhere near a market deal on this. Again, I just want to ask, have they said that they are a no on this if I'm not even talking about Dundon, I'm talking about the NBA, if we ask for private contribution, or if any of these amendments move forward today?
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of the NBA, and I can't speak on behalf of the Trailblazers. This is just the starting point of our negotiation that was framed through consultation and market research and our experts.
Okay. Councillor Green, I will definitely be supporting your amendment. I think this is a valiant effort in a time when we are clearly having a lot of information withheld from us as councillors about how to make this financial decision that is going to impact the city for generations to come. And we owe it to the people of Portland to try, because we just cut $160 million from our budget. We laid off a bunch of employees. We cut core services, and we are still not getting the full details of this. So we owe it to try. So thank you for bringing this forward, Councilors Green and Avalos. I will definitely be supporting this, but I will say right now, it does feel like there are some of us up here who might be getting extorted by the NBA on this, and at the end of the day, you're gonna have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day when you wake up and decide if you are okay with doing this to Portland without the appropriate negotiation for our people.
Thank you, Councilor Maria.
Council President, I have a point of order.
Yeah.
When Councilor Smith raised a point of order, you didn't rule on it. She asserted that Councilor Maria was breaking the rules.
Right. I found Councilor Maria's line of questioning to be
Thank you.
Appropriate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Yeah, I understand that you would like to move us forward, and this is my last comment here, and then we'll see where the votes go. I just want to reiterate that when Adam Silver did a press conference and acknowledged that things had, I think, quote, gone off the rails or sideways or something like that, he said he was interested in the framework that was spoken about in March, and that was a $600 million framework. That's what he said. Now, I don't agree with that dollar amount because I don't think it was ever based on anything except for we'd like to have this, please, which is the playbook in stadium deals. But the framework is $600 million. If we don't adopt this amendment, the framework is now $848 million. And I just need everyone to understand that crystal clear. So there's no violating, there's no departing from the framework, there's no inconsistency with the league, there's no departure from good faith negotiations if we say, you know what, this is way too rich. We're gonna back off this piece, and we're gonna use that headroom we have to responsibly fund the other side of it. This should be a slam dunk. So I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. Mayor Wilson.
I just want to provide a point of clarity in this. There's two parts of the equation. You have the capital expense for the renovation. We still have to operationally and through capital maintain the facility. And I look to you, Councilor Knoll, because we've spoke to the same mayor around the nation. I've spoke to Oklahoma City Mayor Holt, as well as San Antonio Mayor Ortiz Johnson. And those deals require the city to maintain those facilities, even after renovation, where the parking fees, ticket fees are all going to the NBA owners or the teams. In our case, those funds are going to maintain and make sure capital maintenance on the facility is done for 20 years. Somebody still has to pay for the maintenance of that facility. So I want to make sure that we're talking about a holistic agreement. Those funds are not just fungible, but they do need to be negotiated with RIP City Management on the amount and the use of, which keeps the flexibility as we go through the negotiating process and allow the negotiators the creativity to determine what they're going to be spent for. And that is essentially what you're looking at in the contract. That still has to be maintained. And many NBA arenas don't even have the expenses or capital covered, and the cities are on the hook to pay on an ad hoc fashion on a year-to-year. This agreement, the city of Portland isn't going to be required to maintain operationally or through CapEx, but we still need the negotiators to negotiate what those funds are going to be used for. And that's what you're applying this agreement for right now.
But all due respect, Mr. Mayor, the term sheet itself describes these funds being for capital expenses. And it's $275 million over 20 years after we've done a $600 million renovation. So how can it possibly be the case that we need that? Like, if we pass this amendment, it doesn't mean we can't spend it on the stadium. It accrues to the Spectators Facility Fund, which is an enterprise fund. And this body, under your leadership or with future mayor's leadership, will have to bring forward reasonable proposals to maintain that. So it's not fair to say that if we pass this amendment, then we will have left ourselves short and unfunded on those future liabilities. That's plainly false.
Councilor, I wanted to provide you the context of the reason why that item is in the term sheet.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Pertolini.
Council President, I would like to speak to amendments generally at some point. Would you like to keep the conversation right now germane to this amendment, and I'll get in the queue at another point?
You know, I'm fine. Go ahead and have that conversation now.
So I want to start by thanking my colleagues who brought amendments forward, truly, because I think it is critical that we're discussing these ideas today. And there are ideas in these amendments that reflect real concerns that we've heard, and that in many cases are trying to push us toward a much better deal for our city. And I take the amendments seriously, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into them. There are some amendments that may veer us in other courses, but I want to focus right now on the ones that I think could improve this deal's bottom line for Portland.
Point of order. We keep jumping.
I recognize Councilor. She specifically asked if I was acceptable to talk about the broader conversation.
I'm not acceptable to it.
I'm.
You have to go look, see if some other folks
I
are
am
acceptable.
finding her comments to be germane. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. President, could you please tell me why we are talking about the Avalos Green and we're getting confused by other people's grand ideas of how this should go, and we're not talking about that right now. And I think it's confusing and it's messing up the process.
Thank you, Councilor. I find the conversation germane. Continue, please,
So
Councilor Pertolini.
to the amendment and to amendments broadly, I can't support these amendments today, and I wanted to just take an opportunity at some point early in the process before we get too far in to explain why. It connects directly to how I'm approaching where we are in our decision-making process broadly. This term sheet is not the final deal. It's a framework for negotiation, and I know that some of my colleagues, to the point that one made just a few minutes ago, see this as the maximum amount that we can ask for. And in many negotiations, that's the case. And that is why I have asked many times through this process if this would be our only bite at the apple, if this would be the most we could put on the table, if there was only down from here. And each time I've been told, no, that's not the case. That this is the type of negotiation that ebbs and flows as different parties put different things on the table. And that's a critical point right now. I'll speak more to that in a minute. That leads me to think that everything in this document is about what signal we send and whether we send the signal that Portland is serious about getting to a deal that serves our city. Because we're at a really fragile moment in this process. So for me, the question before us today is not do any one of the things my colleagues are putting on the table seem like a good idea, not do any one of those items seem like something that I would like to see in our term sheet. But the question is whether adopting amendments today strengthens or weakens our ability to get to a final deal that is the best possible deal for Portland. And I believe that making piecemeal changes on the dais today could risk or undermine the work that we've done up to this point. So I trust that what we have in front of us is a reasonable, not the best, but a reasonable draft that demonstrates that the city wants to keep the Blazers in Portland while also demonstrating that we want to find a way to maximize benefits for Portlanders and make sure that this is a fair deal, not just for folks negotiating on behalf of the team, but for our negotiating team negotiating on behalf of the city and on behalf of Portlanders as a whole. I want to be clear that that doesn't mean I think this term sheet is perfect or that it has everything in it that I would want to see. And it certainly doesn't mean that I want the amendments presented today to go away. Again, more on that in a minute. From my perspective, this is not the last opportunity to shape the deal. So I want to thank the council president for asking our negotiating team, not the mayor or the administration, but our folks at the table, to review the concepts raised today and come back with any refinements that could strengthen our position at the table. I think it's really critical to get their perspective on what could strengthen our negotiating position, because what we want is to be in the best position possible for the city and for Portlanders as a whole. And I think it's exactly the feedback that we're hearing today in these amendments that they can look at and figure out how to add to our draft in a strategic way that makes our position stronger. And I want to be clear that my priority is setting them up for success, but that what is not included shouldn't go away. And so I want to say to the folks who sit across the table from our negotiating team that I hope you know that what you're hearing today, if it doesn't end up in this draft sheet, shouldn't be new to you if you see it hit the table as you make big asks that require significant counters, because I want to be really clear that if we don't end up with a deal that's good for Portland, if the counter across the table doesn't show real commitments, real partnership, and real accountability, I'm more than ready to revisit any ideas put on the table today that don't make it into the term sheet we pass, and potentially more than that. Because ultimately we need a final deal, not the draft today, but a final deal that reflects our values, that holds our bottom lines, and that keeps us in a position to actually get a deal done. And I think that this conversation, these ideas put on the table are a part of that, but I don't think that adopting them piecemeal at the dais today puts us in the strongest negotiating position. For that reason, I'll be a no on this amendment and the further amendments. And Council President, thank you for allowing me to address them collectively. I think that makes more sense given where I'm at than trying to address them one by one.
Thank you, Councilor Bertolini. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to have Jonas or someone from the negotiating team come up. Because as I'm looking at the Green Avalos amendment and the $270 million that they're talking about, that's basically $13 million, $13.5 million a year that would be used for maintenance. Is that what the idea is?
Yeah, Councilor, the ongoing contribution would be towards things related to over the 20 years, the upkeep, the investments in the facility to keep it, up to that, first-class standard or state-of-the-art, sorry, not first-class standard, but the comparable standard, level.
And if you have right now, how much do we spend in that maintenance right now? Is that about 10, 13 million?
No, Councilor, the current agreement stipulates that the Spectator Venue Fund contributes 50% of eligible upgrades that we approve. So for example, the most recent contribution was for the new scoreboard that you all have seen. We paid for half of that. That's how the bridge agreement's currently structured. In the new term sheet, all the contributions that are generated from the revenue would go back into the arena.
So this is a better deal for us because we can kind of say what it is up front, and we don't have any extra expenses other than the 270 in regards to maintenance and keeping it a first-class building.
I wouldn't describe it as a better deal, Counselor. What I would describe it as that we're taking revenues generated from the operations of the Rose Quarter and putting it back into the
Rose Quarter, the Moda Center.
To the Rose Quarter, because it's not just.
Right. Okay, so that's what I wanted. So the numbers that Councilor Green put up, Jonas, I don't know if they're correct. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm sure you did it correctly, but I would like to see if those numbers, if they make sense, what he's talking about. I don't have a problem with the upfront money, but I just want to make sure that what he's putting up there is correct.
Counselor, thank you. For the record, Jonas Beery, Chief Financial Officer, and with respect to the counselor, I wasn't able to see the details of those numbers on the screen, and I haven't seen them prior to a few minutes ago, so I just can't comment on that.
So it's going to be hard for me because I don't do numbers like that real quick, and that's a lot of zeros, and it's going to be hard for me to vote for something like this because I haven't verified it. I don't know where these numbers came from, and no disrespect, Councilor Green, I know you're really good at this, but I would need some more time to study this a little bit longer than we have right now. So that's what I wanted to know, if you all had looked at this and verified if these numbers are correct. Because the way I'm looking at it, it's averaging about $13 million a year for.
So, Counselor, in real time, I'm just looking at this and it looks like the table on the left was the original submitted from Carlisle, correct?
Okay.
We're talking about the right table, or is that?
Yeah. The right table, here I'll walk you through the formulas.
Okay, there you are, okay.
So the right table.
I was wondering, like, you're actually live in the document. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's a sum of the first three columns. So I actually took conservative estimate. I didn't take the VFIGA, so it's not even the full 275. And then the next formula says subtract the constant payment from a $120 million bond issuance at 20 years and at that interest rate. So I did 3 different interest rates. So that's the formula. That's the math.
Okay.
Okay.
And the last question, there was some conversation about we don't know where we can get the money from, but we can bond. We have limited revenue bonds. We do have debt service dropping off. There are several different pots of money other than PSEF that we can get these dollars from.
Yeah, Councilor, I think much of the dialogue about the sources is accurate that's been spoken today. I would also just reflect that, as is included in the record, there was a memo prepared by myself to the city administrator that's also attached to the document that's posted for discussion today that discusses some of those financing options. That document dated July 10th. So we have had some thinking around that. One of the sources that's contemplated in the document is, in fact, the Spectator Fund. So there's a complicated mix of, if we use revenues for that, we can't use them for this. But you're correct contextually that there are pathways, particularly if we issue debt that's paid off over a long period of time, to identify resources to help address that commitment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Councilor Smith. Thank you, Councilor Smith. Councilor Murillo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Council President. And I can literally see Councilor Green's heart and brain breaking in front of me, genuinely, because of how astounding it is that people are genuinely not looking into these amendments right now. The idea that this term sheet If we're having a chicken or egg discussion that later on down the line it's going to get better when we have barely been able to get our points as a council who represent the districts across in the original term sheet is just, I don't think, accurate in any actual reality. The term sheet that we put out today is the final signal for what we are allowed to do. It doesn't get easier to do analysis. And to say that we are going to go to our negotiating partners and ask them what they want so that we can better position ourselves in a negotiation doesn't make any sense, genuinely. There is absolutely economic consensus about stadium deals. We talked with two economists who are renowned about this last night in a webinar. It's recorded, it's posted on YouTube. We're posting clips on Instagram as we speak so that people can watch that. Well over 100 peer-reviewed studies since the late 1980s across employment, GDP, taxable receipts, subsidies seem to have little or no impact on all the types of economic variables. And according to J.C. Bradbury, if we're looking at scale comparison, the Jacksonville Jaguars are basically rebuilding their entire stadium for $725 million. That's a football stadium that is considerably larger and more complicated than this building. So what are we spending this money on? Council has not gotten any clarity on that. And the median comparable arena renovation is around $340 million. So I say all of that because I am literally begging you to take these amendments seriously moving forward. This is a last opportunity for us to adjust this term sheet. And people can say, oh, later we'll get to it. Why would we not do it right now while we have the opportunity? I genuinely do not understand. And when we're talking about who it's going to be a risk for the negotiation, then that means that we are not in a negotiation because that means council's perspective cannot be added based on the feedback of our constituents, based on the research of national experts. That means that we are not in a negotiation, we are in a hostage situation. How does adding amendments to this term sheet make it worse? This is part of the process that we have all agreed to. Council is the final decision maker on the budget. We have the power of the purse. Nothing goes through this body without us. So why this body is continuously refusing to do our duty, I will not be able to wrap my head around. Councilor Green, could you please walk us through the amendment in a less professor-like fashion? If you could do it in simple terms for us non-economists up here, because I really need people to understand what you are bringing forward, because I am genuinely terrified that if we don't do something, we're going to be putting something forward that is going to put Portlanders in harm's way for generations to come. I can't watch this happen.
And I'd just like to note we have been on this item for about 40 minutes at this point. We have 16 additional amendments to get through, and we have 2.5 hours.
Council President, I can do it in 20 seconds.
Go on, do it.
If we don't do this amendment, then we don't have enough free cash flow in the spectator facility fund, based upon what I received from Donnie's team, to bond for $120 million to pay for this. We don't have it if we're pre-committing it. And so unless we do that, then we don't have another source to pay for this without robbing PSEF funds or robbing some BLT funds or making some cuts or floating an unsecured bond against the general fund, and I don't think we've got capacity left on that. So that's what this does. All this does is says we are going to not pre-commit those spectator facility funds at that level, so we can actually count on them to bond against them to pay for the $120 million to get the deal done, which is what a lot of people who have been asking us to do. And I didn't even want to do that much, but I'm willing to move on that. So that's what this does. Thanks.
Thank you for that explanation, Councilor Green. I understand. I am sorry that we're taking so long on these amendments. Economics is hard, okay? And this is one of the biggest deals that the city of Portland is dealing with. So have some coffee. I don't know. We have a job to do.
Thank you, Councilor Mario. Councilor Avalos.
I'm confused. I'm genuinely confused about what this is, because if we're going to talk about sending signals, what signal does it send to the public that the counselors they elected don't have an opportunity to voice genuine concerns through amendments, or at least people are not interested in that because they think that it weakens our position? I do not understand that. I've heard you all explain it. It don't make sense. And the work we've done up until this point, who is we? Who exactly is we? Because the work up until this point has been given to us without our input. They put out a draft term sheet without any kind of signal that that's what we wanted. So it just continues to be this position where it's like, well, you're gonna have a chance later, you're gonna have a chance later. This is the chance. This is literally our only chance. I do not agree. I asked the same question too. What happens after we pass this? What is the box that the negotiating team is working within? And it does feel like it's restricted. And so if we don't have an opportunity to do this, it's just like, I keep hearing, now's not the time, now's not the time. The time is now. And then it's like, well, now is the time, but it's very narrow, and actually, no, it's not the time. Which time is it? When is the time that I'm going to be able to represent East Portlanders and fight for something back for the city? Because the way that it is currently written, absolutely not. I do not support. My amendments are about, can we talk about rent? Can we talk about private capital? Can we talk about lots of other ways to secure that this investment actually pays back to the people paying it, which is Portlanders? Reminder, 3 times they're paying it. They're paying it with their county taxes, with their state taxes, and with their city taxes. So I truly am confused, because I was told this whole time, I literally wrote out sheets of paper with, here's what I want. I brought it to an exec session. It was like, no, that's not the time. Okay, the next exec session, no, that's the time. This is what I was told is the time. And now I'm being told it's not the time. When is the time? Genuine question. I don't understand how we're gonna go from this to next week with no amendments, and we're gonna get some package back. We all know how president packages have worked around here. People don't like them. I don't like them. So I really do not understand, and I'm frustrated because I don't even know what the point is of this discussion if people are not even gonna be willing to engage. And honestly, it's shameful. I hope your constituents are watching that you are not interested in making any changes at the time that we were told 1,000,000 times was gonna be the time to make changes. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos. Councilor Cano.
Thank you. Are DCA Oliveira or Kristen Dennis able to come up? Both. Just I got a couple questions about process related to this. My understanding from the previous, the previous conversation, the comments that were made were that, from Ken, is that there's no interim step anymore. So there's this, and then there's definitive agreements. Is that?
Yeah, generally speaking, so just for context for the public's understanding, we had contemplated doing the term sheet, and then there's, all deals are different, but then there would have been an interim MOU phase, which would have been more substantive, but still not complete, and then definitive documents in the spring. After talking with our partners at the state, just the need to get real, high fidelity, high detailed information, the definitive documents made just the most sense, and we're just going to push towards that, which is a much bigger lift in a shorter amount of time. But essentially, yeah, that's where we're going, is definitive documents in December.
If I can jump in too, Donnie's correct in terms of when council is going to be voting, and the actual vote is again next week. And I think that Council President Dunphy discussed having opportunity to have some changes at that point as well. And then one of the things that council's been really clear about is making sure that council has an ongoing role. It might be an informal role. It might not be. It won't be votes from the dais, but particularly in executive sessions and small group and other meetings, making sure that council's apprised of the negotiations from the negotiating team to making sure that you all are actually kept apprised.
So that makes sense in terms of the idea being we have a term sheet, which is a framework, and as that framework becomes closer to a proposal for the real final thing, that we would have updates along the way in settings that we are legally not allowed to make votes at, executive sessions, right? When those final documents come back, at that time, because there'll be I assume an ordinance to accept them, that's a legislative item. We are legally allowed to put up amendments at that point, legally. But my guess, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that that's a really bad idea at that point, because the negotiation will have been done, and any changes at that point would require going back and renegotiating a portion. And maybe the reason that they were okay with this is because we did this thing on this other thing, and so it could open up other items. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and Councilor, I'll also just acknowledge and remind everyone that along the way, the joint authority will be established, and they'll play an outsized role in sort of the renovation details and the approval and oversight of some of those things. So we have this other entity that the city's party to that will have both membership and staffing of.
But we don't know, when you say the city, you mean the mayor?
No, whoever the council appoints, or whoever the process of appointing, there will be membership on the joint authority made up of state appointed folks, city appointed folks, and a county appointed person at this point. And they will have, an oversight component of this as well.
Right, but just so I want to just recap what I've heard here. There are going to be 2 points along this. There's a term sheet and then definitive documents.
Yep.
Those will be legislative items where we can't make amendments, or legally we can, but they're a bad idea to do, right? And everything in between is updates without any possibility of having decisions, because executive sessions under state law do not allow for decision making. Which means, and I just want to recap, that means that this resolution, this current legislative item we're discussing, is the only place other than up or down votes next week on the resolution and eventually on the definitive documents, where council is taking a vote, and the only place where amendments could be made without creating those other problems we just talked about. I'm seeing nods.
That's correct, Councilor.
Councilor, I would note that you're in a very challenging position, because even with what you all decide to pass next week, the negotiating team still has to figure out if they can even deliver what's there, and they need to have flexibility in order to get as close to what's in that term sheet, and potentially have some trade-offs in there to get to some of the other things that I think they know that council would like to see. Because we have seen there will obviously need to be some trade-offs. I think there's things that we've heard and have been brought up as amendments that I think the negotiating team knows about, and that will hopefully be discussed today and next week, where the negotiating team might need to make a decision about those trade-offs. They're going to have to get some input from you informally. That will happen in executive session. Those aren't actual votes because you're not passing any legislation, but we're working within the structure of the city of Portland, where you have the council cannot be at the table negotiating, and it's incumbent on the negotiating team to make sure that whatever they bring, this actually their responsibility to make sure that they will ultimately be able to have the votes. Because if they bring something that this council can't support, they haven't fulfilled their duty either. And so it's not just on the council. I think this is why this partnership and you all working together is so critical.
I mean, at this point, it appears to me that the angle is to bring something that can't get the votes because nobody's listening to us, and then be able to blame it on us at the end. That's how I didn't think that an hour ago. I'm astounded by what has happened up here, to be honest. But let me just ask about the negotiating team. And I know you're not on it, Kristen. So basically everybody that we're hearing from on this side of the table, other than yourself, who do they ultimately report to? None of them report to city council. Is that correct? Yourself, Donnie?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. That was the clarification there. I want to ask a clarification question of the two colleagues who've expressed that they're not interested in amending the term sheet. Does that apply to the resolution as well, or just to the term sheet? Because there are at least 3 amendments that affect the text of the resolution, as well as a portion, I'll note, of Councilor Green and Avalos's amendment, which is the relevant place here, that affects the impact statement. So my curiosity is if that is an open conversation, because I took great pains in taking the time at the council president's request from yesterday to develop amendments that 2 of them only touch the resolution. So I'd be curious as to if they have thoughts on that.
You know, Counselor, I had a number of very specific requests to all counselors about how amendments should go. I've sent that email at least 3 times to council, to everybody in council and all of our staff. Nobody, to my understanding, reached out to the negotiating team to understand whether or not these were vetted in any capacity, and that was a clear request of mine in those. Nobody is entitled to my vote in any capacity forever, and not one colleague either followed what I asked in terms of process in order to get to me to a position where I would feel comfortable in having any conversation about these amendments, and nobody has talked to me about them other than filing them or sending them via email. So as of that, that's enough for me to simply say I'm unwilling to engage in any of the amendments as proposed.
Okay. Councilor Pirtle-Guiney, I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Council President, is it okay if I respond?
Please.
Counselor, you know, I hadn't parsed them this way. I had looked at all of it as whether I was comfortable at the end of the day having a piecemeal who can gain the votes as opposed to the holistic conversations that we had, for example, through our work sessions around the directions we might move this, and ultimately landed on the place of feeling uncomfortable with what that piecemeal approach did to our bottom line in negotiations without being able to see how the pieces work together. I think that holds for the resolution language as well, because I think this comes as a package, but I appreciate you bringing it forward in that different way. That's in that kind of bifurcated way that's different from how I had been looking at it.
Okay, so I still have the confusion broadly, not to either colleague here, about how on earth we're going to be expected to incorporate these ideas in when they're all going to fail. So because that'll be just used later as why we didn't put it in. And if those watching are seeing that's based on an assumption, I think the lack of trust that you have felt in your city is not limited to people who don't work on the second floor of this building. Many of us have that too. With that said, I don't have anything else to say on this amendment. I'm going to put up my amendments and, make you vote no on them if you don't agree with them. I'd ask for solely, I think, what is not an entitlement, but the common courtesy of engaging with the content. And I'll do the same with Green Avalos 1.
Thank you, Councilor Cannell. Councilor Murillo.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to be clear about what Kristen Dennis had said when she was up here, because what she is basically saying is that the Blazers can't do their job in negotiating if they don't understand our position as a council. I can't think of a better way to indicate our position as a council and the things that we need in a term sheet in order to get to a yes than to approve amendments. This is not a discussion that can be had vaguely behind closed doors where we get to vaguely signal and then hopefully someone takes back our feedback in a room where we're not in and we can't verify. And they cannot incorporate our ideas if they are not discussed on the merits. And right now we're not discussing ideas based on the merits because people are discussing them based on the impression that if we have any adjustments to this whatsoever, then something terrible is going to happen. That's not a negotiating position. That's not negotiating on amendments. I think at this point, the way I'm approaching this meeting, just having heard what everyone is saying, I'm going to go through the amendments. I'm going to go through the merits of it, support each amendment based on the merits, knowing that it's probably going to not pass, just to show Portlanders what actually was possible for your negotiations in a term sheet. Because you do deserve to see what could have been, because we are setting a precedent with an ask financially from a team that is more than any other stadium deal in the country has been thus far. That should shake you to your core about the precedent that we are setting nationally. To me, this is basic good governance, actually, to go through our amendments and to do our work and to update things based on the information that we have. So that's how I'm approaching this now, and hopefully we'll get more clarity as to why some people are refusing to engage with the material later on down the line.
Thank you, Councilor. Seeing no one else in the queue, can we please call the roll on Green Avalos 1?
Moved by Green, seconded by Avalos. Cleomeline.
Aye.
Mario.
This is the only responsible approach. Aye.
Novick.
Nay.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Portoguiney.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 noes.
Thank you. Councilor Canal to Canal 1.
Thank you, Council President. I will explain Canal 1 at this time. It makes changes only to the resolution, not to the term sheet. It adds to what has been the third and second to last be it further resolved, a clause, and then it adds a new be it further resolved clause between the second to last and last be it further resolved clause. The clauses that it adds are to the clauses which, the text that it adds to existing clauses. There's one that says that the mayor is authorized to sign the Moda Center arena renovation and post-renovation operations term sheet in a form substantially similar to the one that is the attachment. And the other authorizes the city administration to develop formal definitive documents. And in both cases, it adds that they are not authorized by council to commit to any specific funding source. And then the new clause says that the city and the city council specifically will evaluate the use of restricted funds for potential financial obligations only following receiving sufficient information to go through our standard processes. And that is an itemized list of proposed improvements with their estimated cost. It is a 2-column table adding up to 573 or frankly even 75 million if that's the ask. In order to allow us to not have a rushed process, because as is I think pretty clear here, I'm concerned about the idea that we're gonna leave every other option unexplored and end up where we have $40 or $45 million figured out with BLT and PSEF. The remaining $75 million, there's no other option identified besides PSEF. We don't get information because we never asked for it or because we asked and didn't receive. And then it's go time. It's December. It's vote for this or the Blazers leave. And you have to do it with PSEF money, even though we don't know if it's eligible or not, let alone whether it's a good idea or not. And so this clause does not seek to change the funding source in any way, but simply to say that we'll evaluate it based off of the information necessary to evaluate it, received with sufficient time to do so. I've said before, if my arm is being twisted and I'm being told to use PSEF outside of a proven scope, proven eligibility for the PSEF scope as approved by voters, I will tell them to keep going and to not count on me to break that rule, because I will not break the rules that the voters gave us on PSEF. I do think it's appropriate to look at the information and determine if PSEF is eligible. I think that's a fair request, and we're just asking for that information. So that's the amendment, Canal 1, and I will move it formally and ask for a second.
Second.
Councilor Canal moves Canal 1. Councilor Avalos, I believe that was seconds. Colleagues, to the amendment, Canal 1. Councilor Green.
Thank you for bringing it forward. I think it's substantive to the resolution. I think it's good. It's important for good governance, and I plan to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Canal 1?
Moved by Canal, seconded by Avalos. Cleomeline.
Aye.
Mario.
Aye.
Novick.
Nay.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Portoguiney.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 nays.
Councilor Murillo to Murillo 1.
Thank you, everyone. You'll like this one. It's super simple and should not be controversial in any way at all if we're actually doing our due diligence. So Murillo 1 requires the city administrator and the chief financial officer to give us at least 30 days before any vote on definitive agreements or city debt to provide the council with a report that identifies, 1, every proposed funding source and repayment method, the opportunity costs for every funding source, the potential impacts to the Portland Clean Energy Fund, our general fund services, parks, police, fire, and public safety, to affect the effects on debt capacity and future borrowing costs, and a backup plan if assumed one-time revenues do not materialize. It also requires a comparison of the public benefit of funding MODA versus current proposed uses of those dollars. So for example, if we end up using the Portland Clean Energy Fund dollars to renovate MODA, we would need to see what programs and things are going to be defunded from the Portland Clean Energy Fund in order to fund this renovation instead. And that is what we are going to be looking at right now. I think this is very simple. I think this amendment, of all the amendments that are being brought forward, is the absolute bare minimum, boring amendment that a responsible council would pass. Because this amendment is literally just saying, hey, 30 days before your city council makes a decision on a multi-million-dollar deal, we would like to see the cost-benefit analysis of our funding source. That's it. So if you guys vote this down, I will be very confused. I would love to hear some rationale as to why not for something as simple as this. It's just a report.
Councilor, are you moving the amendment?
Yes, I am moving Murillo 1.
Second.
Councilor Murillo moves Murillo 1. Councilor Avalos seconds. Colleagues to the amendment. Councilor Green.
Thank you for bringing this forward. Because the negotiators, the stewards of this, both at the state and the city level, have failed to make sure that this happened before we have gotten here. And I have to emphasize, they have failed us. The state of Oregon, Senator Lieber, I'm actually talking about you. You have failed us. This was a condition that went into your bill to make sure that we have an independent analysis. You have put us in a position where we must adopt this kind of an amendment, or else we are being irresponsible with the public's funds. And so this doesn't even get into dollar amounts. This doesn't even get into whether or not you can get a hot dog for $1.50. This is just about like, what are we gonna spend your money on before we're presenting city council with a vote. And by the way, can't change it because we have no time. Better pass it. You amend it, it's dead. Like this is so responsible, and thank you for writing this. I expect to see 12 votes on this.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Novick.
Is Jonas Beery here? I wanted to ask if he had, I know he has some thoughts about this amendment. I just wanted to give him a chance to express them.
Thanks, Councilor. For the record, Jonas Beery, is there a question specifically?
Yeah, I just wanted to know your thoughts on the feasibility of the 30 days thingamabob.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'll just say appreciate Councilor's office did reach out for some feedback on this amendment, so I appreciate that greatly. And I would just say also I agree with the intent and aspiration. Just say, as I would intend to do for any major decision that's coming to council, as I've said for over 2 years in this position, I'm always striving to bring those appropriate facts and details to support decision making. So I support that. I did communicate and will communicate again that I think there are some challenges in complying. I think that the variability in the outcomes will lead to a report that's likely very unsatisfactory. The 30-day timeline is a little bit challenging. I think we can provide something, but often in my experience, these negotiations will go right up to the last minute. And so there may be some open-endedness in a report that's coming 30 days prior to that timeline. Maybe more challenging is that the trade-offs that might exist will be extremely variable and subjective. For example, if there was a pathway that had a debt issuance that had multiple payments over a 20-year period, the options around that will be potentially vast. or subjective. And I don't think, I mean, it's something that can be prepared. And so I think that's a fair request. I'm just a little concerned about the ability to meet council's expectations given that variability. I do appreciate that it includes the phrase if feasible, and I think that's really important. So we'll just highlight that if this proposal does pass, set expectations appropriately, because I think that if feasible is going to be a really important qualifier of what's able to be delivered within that 30-day window.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Novick. Councilor Murillo.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonas. I appreciate that. I think that's helpful. And I would say that you can qualify the information as needed when you bring it forward. That doesn't mean that that's not information that council should request or have. And I think that there are a lot of ways that we can actually look at this information. PSEF is currently obligated to a 5-year plan. So getting information on how any funding that is used now would require the deobligation of certain plans, I would like to know which ones. From there, you can tell which Portlanders are going to be served less and in which ways. The general fund, which is another pot that it could come from, has a 5-year forecast. So can you utilize the projections in the appropriate year and compare that to what CSL would be, quantify the cut, and then have the mayor speculate on how he would make those cuts? That's also something that we need to see. We could also analyze the BLT as a one-time reserve. We could analyze our debt capacity. So there are a lot of ways that we can actually assess how and why these different pots of money, should they end up being used for the MOTA, are going to impact our budget overall and what that is going to mean for Portlanders who receive our services. So that is all that I am asking for. It's not going to be perfect. I understand these are quick timelines, and I think sometimes fabricated timelines, but it is our responsibility to at least try and ask.
Thank you, Councilor Murillo. Councilor Cleon-Malain.
Thank you. I appreciate this amendment. I plan to support it. I will also just say more generally, I hope and expect that negotiations are not happening up until right before we take that vote on December, I think it's the 17th. In order to consider voting yes on anything in December, I think that the public needs to see the whole package at least 30 days in advance. There are parts of the term sheet proposal where I see voices from up here and community voices reflected. And I've also been very clear that in order to consider voting for it, I need to see the owners have a financial contribution to the capital stack. If something changes between now and when we have the vote in December, I'd be interested in reconsidering my support. But I really do hope over the next few months of negotiations that there is a timeline set and there is some clarity for Portlanders and for us about how we can get information and stay engaged and follow this. So this doesn't just go completely behind closed doors for a few months and then all of a sudden we're asked and communities asked to support this last minute. So I think this amendment is really clear and reasonable, and in order to vote on something, it makes sense that we need to be able to know what are the funding sources and get a report like this just to get some basic information. So thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Cleon-Malain. Colleagues, seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Murillo 1?
Moved by Murillo, seconded by Avalos. Cleon-Malain.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
No.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Knoll.
Aye.
Portal-Guinea.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 noes.
The time is now 4:10. I'm going to give us a 10-minute break. Colleagues, please be back at 4:20. And I'm calling us back to order. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I'd like to bring up Novick 1 and Canal 3, which are substantively similar. Councillor Novick.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I have to apologize to my colleagues. In what we posted yesterday, somehow I must have clicked on accept all deletions because I only had my new language, not the struck through language listed. So I just passed out a copy of the term sheet with my strike throughs and new language. I have 4 proposed changes. One is just under user fees on page 4 to say that a 7% user fee payable to the city on all ticketed events at the Rose Quarter will exist throughout the term. 1% or 1/7 of that fee will be used by the city as it sees fit. There's no requirement to reinvest those funds into the arena. So that, similar to Councillor Canal's proposal, increase of 6% to 7%. On parking revenues, we have a kind of odd arrangement now where the city Blazer division of parking revenues depends on which historically was whose parking lot. That means the Blazers wind up getting the majority of parking revenues, even though most parking revenues come from non-Blazer events. My proposal is simply to say that the city receives all parking revenues from non-Blazer events. And then on page 6, there's kind of a conforming amendment that reflects that change, which deletes under funding for post-renovation operations the actual revenues the city receives from parking from Blazer events, because under my proposal, we'd simply be getting parking from non-Blazer events. And then finally, under community benefits, I add language saying, in addition, Rip City and or the Trailblazers through the Trailblazers Foundation shall continue to invest at least $2 million annually in the community through charitable donations. I bring these amendments to bring us somewhat closer to the situation that the state is in. The state is putting in as much money to the arena as they expect to get out of the arena through taxes on player salaries. The current term sheet, what concerns me about it is that the only financial commitment the Blazers are being asked to make to the city is we will get 1/3 of a $3 million sort of payment in lieu of rent thingamabob, or $1 million a year, although that does increase over time by 5% a year. And to be asked to put in $120 million and get in return $1 million a year in rent is sort of, it kind of is the equivalent of a homeowner who's renting their property it's saying, we will make $120,000 worth of renovations, you will pay us $83 a month. So I didn't find that acceptable, so I'm proposing these tweaks to make it more acceptable to me. And I think that they're such small tweaks that I don't imagine that the NBA will look at them and say, well, they're insane. They want an extra % in ticket revenues. They want all the parking revenue from non-Blazer events. They want the Blazers to continue their practice of making charitable donations. So I move this amendment, and frankly, I don't know if I'll get a second, but I ask for a second.
Councillor Novick moves Novick 1. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Councillor Canal seconds. Thank you. Colleagues, to the amendment. And Councillor Novick, would you like, or Councillor Canal, would you like to discuss how Canal 3, and now we've moved this, but to compare and contrast them, and we will move to that afterwards.
Yeah, colleagues, Canal 3, it does 3 things, but together they do the first item that Councillor Novick just laid out. Both of us are trying to increase the user fee from 6 to 7% and continue to commit the exact same amount of money, 6% user fee, back into renovations while keeping the additional 1% back into city coffers. And this is about increasing the ROI. The way that Canal 3 does it is on page 7, it increases the user fee from 6 to 7%, where it describes what goes back into funding for post-renovation operations. It doesn't say user fees, it says 6% of user fees. And then it updates a header on a table in Exhibit D to note that it's the MOTA user fees 6% that are built into that. I don't have a preference strongly between how those are worded between Councillor Novick's or my own. My understanding is that the Blazer parking and non-Blazer parking piece is being made clear in Councillor Novick's as opposed to a change, but I'd love to hear more on that. And then mine does not include anything about the charitable contributions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, under parking, the current parking revenues provision is the city retains parking revenues from public parking facilities. The city retains approval authority for parking rates at public parking facilities. And my understanding is the public parking facilities refers to those lots that historically belong to the city as opposed to the Blazers. So I'm simply striking that out and saying that the new deal is the city gets all revenue from non-Blazer parking events, regardless of whose parking lot the parking lot originally was.
Okay, well, I guess the way that I'm viewing these two amendments is that I like Councilor Novik's, and if it fails, I'd like you to vote for mine. But I'm very happy to have Canal 3 be a backup to Novik 1. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Canal. Colleagues, to Novik 1. Councilor Green.
You've heard my. I think it's a very bad deal on the table that we walked into. This makes it less bad. So I appreciate that. I don't know if you've got the votes for it, Counselor, but I think this is good. I particularly enjoy that you put in that $2 million CBA there. I think that's a very strong signal to send. So thank you for that. I'm going to vote yes for this.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Colleagues, seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, could we please call the roll on Novik 1?
Moved by Novik, seconded by Canal. Koyamaline.
Aye.
Murillo.
No.
Novik.
Aye.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
No.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Proto Guinea.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 4 ayes and 8 noes.
Thank you. Councilor Canal. To Canal 3.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this does not change the deal around parking. I personally believe, and other people may disagree, and I think it's all speculative, so this is, I'll just note that I think the Blazers are likely to continue their charitable contributions either which way. But I do still think that the user fee piece is important. And so again, this increases the user fee from 6 to 7%, does not change the amount of money that goes into the post-renovation contributions. It creates 1% that goes back to the city's coffers for use as a return on investment. So yeah, I'll move Canal 3 and ask for a second.
Second.
Councilor Canal moves Canal 3. Councilor Novik seconds. Colleagues, to the amendment. Seeing no further discussion, can we please call the roll on Canal 3?
Moved by Canal, seconded by Novik. Koyamaline.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novik.
Aye.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Proto Guinea.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 6 ayes and 6 noes.
Councilor Canal to Canal 2.
Yeah, thank you. Switching my tab here. Colleagues, Amendment Canal 2 is also an amendment to the term sheet itself. I'm trying to be clear about which things amend the term sheet and which the resolution. Currently, we have a $3 million a year property tax offset payment. It's been referred to as pilot elsewhere, sort of out in the community, or payment in lieu of taxes, but it's called a property tax offset payment in the document. Is $3 million a year split proportionally, which will be near a third for the city of Portland, a third to Multnomah County, a third for Portland Public Schools. I'll note that that's, again, not exactly a third. It's proportionate to the tax that they pay. And that there's a 5% increase a year for 20 years. The amendment retains the proportional split, but it does 2 things. It changes the $3 million a year at the start to 4, and it raises the 5% increase to 6% each year. Once again, this is designed to not necessarily require a change to the upfront in any way, but to ensure that there's a return on investment over time. And as with the previous amendments, it also creates a source of funding that could theoretically be bonded against. And so I will formally move Canal 2 and ask for a second.
Second.
Councilor Canal moves Canal 2. Councilor Avalos moves. I'm not used to who is sitting on what side yet, so I'm figuring that. Councilor Avalos seconds. Colleagues, to Canal 2. Councilor Novik.
Councilor Canal, what would be the total increase in what the Blazers would be paying over the 20-year period under your proposal? The total to everybody?
Sorry, the total to everybody, you said? Yeah, just bear with me 1 second, pulling up the right tab in the spreadsheet. Okay, under the current scenario, they are paying about $99 million a year, or sorry, not a year, over 20 years, starting with $3 million a year with that increase, of which $33 million a year would be a third of it, which we're using for estimation purposes for the city's share. If we were to increase the 3 million to 4 million and the 5% to 6%, that would take that up to 147 million over 20 years, which is a increase of $15.9 million for each third of it. Over 20 years, it starts out as 300,000 more a year to us.
Thank you. And I just want to say in advance of the vote that although it does worry me to be somewhat negotiating on behalf of the county and the state by doing this, since this, like my proposal, gets us closer to the idea of the city will be getting back over time what it puts in, I'm going to support it.
Thank you, Councilor Novick. Seeing no one else in the queue, can we please call the roll on Canal 2?
Moved by Canal, seconded by Avalos Koyamaling. Aye. Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Bertolini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 6 ayes and 6 noes.
Councilor Avalos, would you like to go through your amendments however you want to?
Sure. I'm going to start with Avalos 1, and I'm not going to introduce all of these. I'm going to introduce 1, 6, 7, 8. Avalos 1 is about preserving city ownership and control of all existing and future development rights associated with the arena site, the plaza, and any adjacent city-owned properties unless city council approves otherwise. My feeling about this is that future development rights could become extremely valuable, and I don't believe that they should be transferred as part of an arena agreement without a separate public council discussion. It's our understanding that the Blazers don't want the development rights, and great, they clearly aren't doing anything with it anyway. My concern is that I want to put that back to the city so that we can make a more informed judgment about where we could put those development rights. Because ultimately, the things that I want to understand about the people who have those rights are what kind of money do they have to put into it? What is their plan? What's their vision for that? And so I don't think that we should be giving those away before we have any of those discussions, especially given that we're having this discussion with very, very little information as it stands. So this is about preserving council's authority over future development rights and not unintentionally negotiating away a valuable public asset as part of this lease. So I will ask for a second.
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 Councilor Avalos moves Avalos 1. Councilor Murillo seconds. Colleagues, to the amendment. Councilor Novick, just verifying that's aye. Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, can we please go? Councilor Green, there we go.
Thank you. Councilor Avalos, I appreciate that you brought this in. I think when cities do deals like this, there's a lot of different reasons why cities get screwed in stadium deals. And not in this particular deal, it doesn't seem to be really on the table, but there's this sort of assumption that when you do a deal like this, you're assigning development rights without really thinking about the long-term future. And frankly, the intentionality behind what is our unified approach, unified housing strategy, if you will, towards this stuff. But how do we want the built environment to look, and who do we want to be at the table? And so I appreciate that you put this in there so it preserves our ability to really think about that as separate. So for that reason, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, can we please call roll on Avalos 1?
Moved by Avalos, seconded by Murillo. Koyamaline.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
No.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Mo.
Aye.
Bertolini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 noes.
Councilor Avalos.
Amendment 6 is about arena lease payments. The rent for Portlanders is too damn high. I don't understand why we would not ask for rent. I think it's ridiculous to not include some kind of provision in this term sheet where our negotiating team can start to negotiate what that looks like. It doesn't, just like we're being told, the term sheet doesn't mean that we're gonna get everything in it, but it means that you start the conversation. I don't see how we could enter this discussion without asking about getting an annual lease payment. So this is simply adding a section that directs the negotiating team to make that part of their negotiating discussions. I will move it and ask for a second.
Second.
Councilor Avalos moves Avalos 6, and Councilor Canal seconds. Colleagues to the amendment. Councilor Canal.
Thank you. I really appreciate this amendment. I think, to me, this is the one that I was most interested in looking at the list of 12, because one of the things I've been asked a lot by Portlanders as I'm out and about, and I got to tell you, at this point, MOTA is 60% of the conversations that I get when folks come up and talk to me in District 2, is why the city didn't ask for something. Whether it's a private contribution or it's a lease, payment, rent, whatever, it's did you really not ask for that? And the answer is, of course, we didn't ask for it because we haven't had a chance to ask for anything. Today's the day we get to ask for that. Putting something in the term sheet is how we ensure that it gets asked for. So later on, when it's reported that the city never asked for rent, it will be because it never got into the term sheet. But it won't be because I didn't try. And it won't be because Councilor Avalos didn't put up this amendment. So I'm going to be supporting it so that we just ask. What's the harm in asking?
Thank you, Councilor Canal. Councilor Green.
Thank you. Again, this is our arena. This is our house, is the tagline. And we're the landlord. We should charge rent. And to your point, Councilor Canal, we can't, in executive session, we cannot develop policy because that's a violation of public meetings law. All we can do is provide vibes. And we can't do backroom deals. We don't want to do any of that. And so when we want to feel good about the mayor's team negotiating on our behalf, it is because we have collectively and publicly and through a democratic process adopted a term sheet. And that term sheet should start with our strongest ask. And we've already had some discussion from some of our colleagues who don't want to start there. I think that it's better to negotiate by hoping that the backroom deal people bring the strong asks back into it after they've already done the weak deal. I don't follow that logic, by the way. But so for that reason, I'm gonna support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. Is Donnie here? Thank you. Do we get rent right now?
No, Counselor. Well, $1.
$1.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay. Thank you.
all yours. Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. Councilor Avalos.
Which is exactly my point. We are making this ginormous investment and we're not going to ask them to pay rent. I don't care what they currently pay. I am making this ask based on the fact that you're asking us to give $400 million of taxpayer money. So I think it is extremely fair market for us to get a rent out of a building that we own, that they operate, and currently they operate it, they get all the revenue from it, they get the naming rights, they have all of these benefits that are financial that we aren't getting back. I think at a very minimum, we should be getting some rent.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos. Colleagues, Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Council President. But I think, don't we get a 6% off of each ticket?
Yes.
Okay, so how much is that every year?
Staff in the room able to answer that? It's in Exhibit B. D. All right, I'm just going to let Ken answer the answer.
Ken McGarrett from the City Attorney's Office for the record. Counselor, I believe that's approximately $11 million or between $9 and $11 million if I'm remembering what Carl Lau
So is that
said.
something like a rent that and that's the reason why we don't do a rent, because we get the 6%?
That was how the original deal was structured in 1995, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I need to know.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. Councilor Murillo.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos, for bringing this forward. I think we really need to clarify, the only person up here who made the deal to take ownership before was Councilor Dan Ryan. The rest of us were not on council yet. And we have lost taxpayer revenue by owning the building. We are actually making less money as a city now as owners of this building than we were before we were owners. And now we have the opportunity to, at the very least, just try to make up the revenue that we've lost. That's all this is asking for, with a little bit of rent. And at a minimum, that would keep us whole if we're gonna own the building. We wouldn't even be making money off of this. So we have to understand, we are not even being made whole in these negotiations. We are literally still clawing back all of the revenue that we lost. And every year when we go into another budget discussion and we have to lay off more employees and we have to cut more services, this is all part of that.
Thank you, Councilor Murillo. Councilor Canal.
Yeah, so I'm a little confused because in the Exhibit D, it says that the Moto user fees were 6.6 million in year one. So I think there may be a question over the overall versus just the user fees portion of it. But the other thing is the original deal was based off of a fully privately financed development of the Moda Center when Paul Allen built it. I do think that there's importance to recognize that the context is different when public dollars are being put into it versus not. That seems like a pretty uncontroversial concept, but we'll find out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Canal. Councilor Novick.
I just wanted to note that my understanding is that the majority of the user fee revenue comes not from Blazer tickets, but from non-Blazer events.
Thank you, Councilor Novick. Councilor Green.
Because I continue to have my spreadsheet up in front of me, the average annual is $11 million on Moda Center user fees. It starts at 6.7. It escalates to $15 million by the end of the 20 years. But all that goes back into that post-renovation capital fund. So it's not available for general fund discretionary, which is what your amendment would do, Councilor Avalos, and allow us to fund our pension obligations, allow us to fund our healthcare premiums, and allow us to fund parks, public safety, and our approach to homelessness. So that's why I'm supporting this amendment, so we can actually get that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Canal, still no? Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no one else in the queue, can we please call the roll on Avalos 6?
Moved by Avalos, seconded by Canal. Koyamaline.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Bartolini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 6 ayes and 6 noes.
Thank you. Councilor Avalos.
Yikes. No rent on a building we own. Cringe. Amendment 7 is private capital contribution. So this you're going to hate this even more if you don't want to get rent from a building you even own. So it's pretty straightforward. I put some language in there to define, and particularly why I'm doing this is because I do not want the Blazers to come back later and say, our private contribution is a tax break that you already gave us, a future investment that we're going to make, because that's kind of the arguments that they've been making so far, that all the money that users are paying and the percentages that you're getting, that's our private contribution. No. A private contribution is from people who have a lot more money than the Portlanders who are coughing up this money. And I think it's weird that we don't define that more clearly. So I define it in this amendment. I ask for a second.
What's the number?
7.
Councillor Avalos moves Avalos 7. Is there a second?
Second.
Councillor Cleon-Melaine seconds. Colleagues, to the amendment. Seeing no one in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Avalos 7?
Moved by Avalos, seconded by Cleon-Melaine. Cleon-Melaine.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
No.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Pertogini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 noes.
Councillor Avalos?
All right, Portlanders, I am going to try one more time to get you a return on your investment. This next one, Amendment 8, is about naming rights revenue. Again, simple concept. If we're making an investment, right now it's silent on that. So all I'm simply doing is adding some language to ask that our negotiating team require an equitable allocation of arena naming rights revenue between us and Rip City. So again, straightforward. All of these amendments are about trying to find other revenue because, again, we keep being told that we are in a crisis, a budget crisis, that we don't have money, and yet we're putting money into these coffers without any information and without anything that's guaranteeing we're going to get something equitable back. I think the naming rights is simple. I think it should be called the Rose Quarter like it used to be, or the Rose, what was it? Sorry, Rose Garden. Rose Garden, whatever, you get it. But ultimately, this is about just asking our negotiating team to ask. Because remember, all of these amendments are just telling our negotiating team to ask. It doesn't say that we're going to get it. It doesn't guarantee it. But why would we not come into that negotiation asking for a return for the public? I ask for a second.
Second.
Sorry, what was the number on this one again?
Amendment 8.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Avalos moves. Avalos 8. Councillor Cleon-Melaine seconds. Colleagues, to the amendment. Councillor Cleon-Melaine.
I'm going to support this. This makes sense. I also just want to reiterate and get on the record what I believe I heard from Council President earlier, which is that his intention is that his team, including Kristen, who's been supporting this, is paying close attention, paying attention to, hopefully, amendments. I would ask the ones that are like 6-6, where there might be more support there, close to 7. We'll talk to the negotiating team and then see if next week there are possibly some amendments that can be, I see Kristen nodding, brought to the resolution, and we can amend it next week since it is a resolution and still vote. So I just hope that, I feel assured, Kristen is nodding her head, we're paying attention. I know there's a lot of feelings, I know a lot of work was put into these amendments, and just want to say, especially to the public, this is not done. I think there are a lot of people watching this right now and trying to get a temperature check and see where folks are at. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleon-Melaine. Seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Avalos 8?
Moved by Avalos, seconded by Cleon-Melaine. Cleon-Melaine.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick.
No.
Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Knoll.
Aye.
Portogini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 5 ayes and 7 noes.
Council President, I'd like the opportunity to discuss some of the concepts of my other amendments because apparently something's coming back. So I'm going to throw these concepts out to the public.
Sure.
So the other amendments that I did not introduce, let me just briefly mention them. So Amendment 2 was about the lease commencement. I just wanted to ensure that we had that the new lease starts in 2030. I know that's the intent, but I wanted to be sure. I want the Blazers in here until 2050, so I added language around that. The Amendment 3 was about preservation of existing bridge agreement protections, essentially saying I want to ensure that the final agreement that comes back to us does not bring us things that are less than what is in the current bridge agreement. In particular, I said that because I want to make sure maintenance stays at 50-50. I absolutely will not accept anything where we're going to pay 100% of the maintenance. So that was the intent behind Amendment 3. Amendment 4 was a nod to ensure equitable treatment of the other professional sports tenants. We talk a lot about the Blazers, but we have two other professional sports teams, the Portland Fire and the Portland Winterhawks, and wanting to ensure that they have an equitable, commercially reasonable lease. I know there's some other language around that in the term sheet, but I wanted to, again, make that stronger. Amendment 5 was about clarifying what the pilot is, because again, my amendments 5 through 8 were about trying to get money back to Portlanders. I didn't introduce that one because I decided to go for Amendment 6, which was the rent, but we don't get that either. Amendment 9 through 11, bless you, is actually on Exhibit B, which is the community benefits agreements. 9 is about workforce reporting. It has a section that talks about, workforce participation and all, but it didn't have, in my view, any accountability for how we're going to ensure that these projects are actually going to help stimulate our local community, having more local hiring, apprenticeship utilization, minority and women-owned business participation. So it was about adding some metrics. Amendment 10, similarly, that one speaks to community redevelopment. And so this was about adding measurable performance objectives and annual public reporting to commitments involving Albina Vision Trust and other community development organizations. That's how it's written in there. So I added a section to essentially just make sure that we could get some reporting on that and transparency to see that the community benefits were realized. Amendment 11 was more so a general statement, which was the community benefits should be in proportion to the amount of investment and they should be measurable. And then the last amendment was I had asked some questions in a previous executive session around what money goes in first. I asked about, can we stagger the payments? Does it have to be 120 all up front? Can we do a payment plan? Can we make sure that the state's bonding money goes in first before we do ours? Just trying to get creative of the timing of our investment so that we could buy ourselves some more time to figure out where we're going to get these dollars from. So those are the concepts. I guess negotiating team or whoever else is going to make this package, I hope you're listening. These are the kinds of things that I need. I'm pretty frustrated that the term sheet as is essentially moving forward per the last hour from what I can tell. And I just really think that that is a disservice to Portlanders, especially when we were told this was our time. This was our chance to actually fight for what we needed to see in the negotiating team. I keep hearing that people say, oh, it's not the end. Debatable. I clearly do not have any confidence that the people who are supposedly going to negotiate on our behalf, who have up until this point not negotiated on our behalf, because how could you if you don't know what we want you to negotiate on? I feel very concerned that what you're going to bring us next week is not going to reflect not only what we want. This isn't about what I want. This is about what East Portland needs. This is about what our constituents need out of an investment that they're making. And I think the current term sheet is absolutely unacceptable. And I hope that we come in next week with some of these additions, because otherwise I think we are failing Portlanders. And honestly, it's gross. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos. Councilor Canal to Canal 4.
Council President, just clarifying, this is the last one?
Last one I have on my list, yeah.
Okay. Colleagues, we've talked about, I think, 5 amendments that all do different specific things trying to increase the return on investment. I think there is a feeling that there is a outlay being proposed that has a lot of specificity around it in terms of the city's financial contribution, but not necessarily clarity or even an anticipation of a return on investment, financial or otherwise. And so this amendment seeks to address that. I didn't ask for this to be last. It's actually kind of fitting that it is because it is more general than all of those. What actually happened is that I ran all of my amendments, contrary to what was said before, by the person we were told to run them by. And as I got feedback one at a time, we filed them. And so 1 got filed first, 2 and 3 got filed later, and 4 took a little longer. So that's what happened there. But let me speak to this one. Canal 4 adds only to the resolution. It does not change a thing in the term sheet. A be it further resolved clause that reads, be it further resolved that the Portland City Council directs the mayor to negotiate final agreements that deliver a return on investment for the city's financial contributions to the MOTA renovation through a combination of terms and community benefits. That's the full text. And I think that what the underlying goal of all of those amendments that didn't end up passing is to get something that shows the city is not doing a giveaway. This simply says, we already tried to do it in a more specific way. We're now saying, Mr. Mayor, please find a return on investment. Conceptually, not giving any specifics to it. I would argue that this is, in fact, the barest of bare minimums and may not even meet the standard of a bare minimum for some of my colleagues. But that is the text. Adding it would simply state the council's priority is to get some sort of return, which I know many of you share. And I'd ask for your support, starting with asking for a second.
Second.
Councillor Canal moves Canal 4. Councillor Avalos seconds. Colleagues to the amendment. Councillor Murillo.
Thank you, Councillor Canal, and thank you to my colleagues who, including Councillor Novick and other folks who tried to improve this as much as we could. I feel like, unfortunately, we are going to just be in like a Greek mythology Cassandra moment where we're not going to do anything to improve this term sheet clearly by the end of today. And some of us may be politically punished for actually trying to negotiate on behalf of Portlanders later on. And we will also be vindicated a few years down the line. So thank you for trying. I appreciate this is the last amendment that we're going to push forward today. And to the Portlanders that are watching, we're trying to do the best that we can to get a good deal for you. And at the end of the day, I would rather lose some political points somewhere down the line than put my city in debt for the next few generations, to lay off more employees in the coming budget cycle, to cut more services that we promised to people in the parks levy that we asked them to pay more for. Our constituents are emailing us. They can barely pay rent. They're choosing between rent and food. We're laying off so many people and we are not even recuperating the cost for this. So this feels very heavy, and I'm willing to take whatever political cost it is at this point to do what I think is right. So thanks for trying. Thank you, everyone who did try today.
Thank you, Councilor Murillo. Councilor Novick.
I appreciate where Councilor Canal is trying to go. To me, the language is too vague to support. I also wanted to respond to Councilor Murillo's comment about Cassandra, which is that whatever happens to any of us, I hope none of us are murdered by Clytemnestra.
Second that. Thank you, Councilor Novick. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Canal's amendment is our last formal effort as a body to signal to Portlanders that we are going to be good stewards of their dollars, and that we demand more than trust, and we demand more than just, this is what the NBA says what we need to do to get a good deal, without checking the numbers, without subjecting analysis to scrutiny, without saying, hey, you can't share your assumptions with me because it's covered by the NDA. I guess that's good enough. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, that's malpractice. That's a dereliction of duty on the part of this body. And so the idea that we don't put up a challenge to that and provide some guidance to the mayor to do a better job for Portland is frankly astonishing. And so I really do hope that the negotiating team can take this discussion and say, you know what, I slept on it. I do think we should fight for Portland. I don't have any confidence, though, that that's going to happen. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to get a tiny little tweak to this term sheet, and we're going to put forward our final, maybe acceptable offer, not our starting position. And that's the signal we've sent to Portland today. And that's why I'm voting for Councilor Canal's amendment. And I think we owe Portlanders a lot better than this. And yeah, I'm with Councilor Murillo. I'll take the punches. I already have taken the punches, and I've paid some political costs for taking this stance. But Portlanders are watching, and I got to tell you, they're pretty upset at the way that we steward their funds in this city, and they will not forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Canal.
Thanks. I have 3 questions. One is, Councilor Novick, I appreciate that you've been willing to engage with each of these amendments on their merits. I really do appreciate that, and you voted for some and voted against others over the course of the day. What would make it less vague? Because we've tried a few more specific amendments and they just haven't passed.
When it says a return on investment, I think that might be construed to mean that we make a profit. And I'm not sure, I'm just not quite sure what it means. I mean, it could be a negative return, it could be a positive return. And like my collection of proposals arguably wouldn't have delivered a profitable return on investment because it was incorporating charitable donations as part of the package. So I simply am not sure what a return on investment means.
Yeah, I appreciate that. On the subject of the charitable donations, that's what the terms and community benefits are for. I don't think that everything that the city could get back in a good MOTA renovation package is monetary. And so some of it is, some of it may not even be quantifiable, right? Or not easily quantifiable to some degree. In terms of the rest, yeah, I mean, it doesn't say profit. I think return on investment can be safely assumed to mean positive, but if you have thoughts on how you'd like to make that more positive, I would love to know, because I think and this leads me to my second question for my other colleagues, which is, do you want a return on this investment?
Good question.
And actually, I'm going to skip ahead. Mr. Mayor, you have listened to this whole conversation. Do you want a return on this investment for the city of Portland?
Absolutely. It's how you quantify that, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, but it's absolutely at the core of what we're trying to do. And we're looking at this from a holistic standpoint. And as an aside, Councillor, I do want to mention, looking through all these amendments, there's some great ideas that can certainly form the discussion with our negotiators, and they're going to take that into considerations. And so this is not a period in which this conversation didn't end with a result. We're going to be looking at these. I think there's some good ideas, and certainly we'll be considering that.
I appreciate that. So what you all just heard, colleagues, is that the mayor, as I knew the answer to the question before I asked it, does want a return on investment for this, and also mentioned more holistically. That's what through a combination of terms and community benefits means. It means holistically. And so I hope to see that. And I'll have a comment that's unrelated to the amendment on the rest after the vote we take on this amendment, Council President. But I would suggest to colleagues that your vote will be interpreted by me, I can't speak for anybody else, as about whether or not you want a return on investment, because there's literally, I don't know how this can't possibly have a negative effect to put into the resolution and not the term sheet. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Green, you still? I'm sorry. Just making sure. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, Keelan, can we please call the roll on Canal 4?
Moved by Canal, seconded by Avalos. Koyamaline.
Aye.
Murillo.
Aye.
Novick. Aye. Clark.
No.
Green.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
No.
Avalos.
Aye.
Smith.
No.
Canal.
Aye.
Fertogini.
No.
Ryan.
No.
Dunphy.
No.
The amendment fails with a vote of 6 ayes and 6 noes.
Colleagues, that concludes our work on amendments on this item. Councilor Knoll.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I would suggest, just as a format note, if the idea is to make suggestions to the administration, a work session might be a more appropriate way to do that. I think the song and dance of doing amendments but not actually having a credible consideration of that when the intention is to have a request might make that a better outcome where people feel like they're being heard as opposed to going through somewhat of a farce of a process. So I just wanted to put that on the record because I think the work session conversations where we've given input to the administration has been it has been what it was promised to be. It's a work session. We give feedback. We have a conversation. So I just wanted to ask for that in the future that I think maybe for the sake of not only the counselors, but for the public, understanding what this conversation actually is might be appropriate in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cano. Councilor Murillo.
Thank you. We were told earlier that there would be another opportunity since amendments was not the opportunity to do this. What is the time and date that council will be able to have this discussion to make sure our input is included?
Our next council hearing on August 12th will be starting at 9:30 a.m. will be about this. And we have cleared the calendar for the remainder of the week, and we have extended that meeting to last from 9:30 until 5.
So are you assuming that we are going to bring some of these same amendments to that next count to August 12th?
I'm assuming nothing. I have no idea what folks want to do. You're welcome to do it.
Because we can't negotiate or have these policy discussions in executive session because of quorum rules. So we're having it here today. There was no engagement from half the council on this. So we're going to be bringing amendments again on August 12th, or are we expected to rubber stamp this?
No, Councilor, there was engagement on this. We had a series of 16 or 14 votes just now, and they failed. That is engagement. I don't know what, I mean, I hear your frustration and I hear everybody's frustration, but that is engagement. You are welcome to do what you want on the 12th. That is how the process works.
Council President? What I'm asking my colleagues to do is to engage on the substance of the things that are being brought forward.
Yeah.
And people have chosen to completely ignore their duty to actually analyze the policy and the budget impacts for the city of Portland because they have just across the board said no to any and all amendments. That's not true engagement, and I don't appreciate the condescension. Thank you.
Councilor, thank you very much. Councilor Avalos.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely just don't understand what we're doing next week. So all these amendments, people didn't want to talk about the amendments. They didn't want to make any changes today. Supposedly, we're supposed to do that next week, but I thought that was the point of this. So am I supposed to bring all 12 of my amendments, or can you re-vote on an amendment at a different day? I don't even know the logistics of that. Huh?
When is the package coming?
Yeah, and and tell me more about this package that is coming. I don't understand. Again, it's just very frustrating to not know the way that my input is going to be taken. So if this was not the way because nobody wants to vote for anything because for reasons, can I get an understanding of what I'm doing on the 12th? Because at this point, I don't even know why I would come. August rubber stamping it.
August 12th will be the final vote on the resolution.
So you said that Kristen is gonna, so Kristen, come up here, please. Could you please explain what you're gonna do between now and next Thursday? Because what I heard the council president say was that you were gonna take this information and propose something.
Thank you, Councilor. For the record, again, Kristen Dennis. My intent from the direction from Council President Dunphy is to take all of the amendments that have been proposed today, talk to the team, the negotiating team about them, and figure out how to integrate as many as possible into the into a package, an amendment for next week to integrate them into the term sheet.
And also, just to clarify the record, because I know my amendments, we've talked about them. I didn't give you the exact ones ahead of time. But just to clarify, because I heard it be said that nobody ran anything by you. That doesn't seem to be the case. Can you please confirm?
Kristen was not who the directions were to run by. It was the negotiating team. Kristen is assisting me in facilitating this process, but Kristen is not a negotiator for us. And the email, which my chief of staff is resending to everybody on council about the process that was laid out, said to contact the negotiating team, or at the very least, the staff administrator.
Thank you. And it also said it was a recommendation. Is that how the email reads?
Counselor,
I'm pretty
it'll
sure
be in your
the
inbox in just a second.
Well, but I'm asking, please do not dismiss me when I'm asking you a serious question. It said a recommendation, so I don't appreciate the goalposts continuing to move. Is it Kristen? Is it a recommendation? Did it have to get submitted by this time? Is it now that we have to do amendments? No, it's not. So I think I'm feeling jostled because I don't understand where I'm supposed to put my input. So can I get a clear answer on, before now and next week, do I need to get some kind of grading from somebody in order to put something forward? How do I bring more ideas next week so that they can be integrated into the term sheet?
What I can commit to, Counselor, is that I can work with you directly. I have the amendments that you have, that you've already submitted. If there are any additional ones, I'm happy to talk to you about them. I will take on making sure that that input is then brought over to the negotiating team, and making sure that we have a full package. And I will commit to making sure that you all have that in advance of the 12th, so you all can read what that looks like. That way, if there's any additional amendments that don't get captured, they can be brought. My understanding is that you can bring them to the council meeting on the 12th. I'd like to incorporate as many as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Avalos. Councilor Green.
Point of order, Mr. President. Can you just remind us the rest of the agenda for tonight?
This is the remainder of our agenda. We have concluded all the city's business and we are about to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we heard from the Portland Trailblazers last week, and they told us up here that unless we abandoned the protections that are already in the bridge lease agreement, that there's no deal, that this term sheet is unacceptable. The draft thing is unacceptable. They didn't respond to our term sheet because they found it unacceptable. And so I'm struggling to really understand why we have to vet our amendments with the negotiating team to find out what is acceptable. Because the whole point is to adopt a term sheet, to say this is where council's at. And then from there, we go into the negotiations. And then we lose some of what we got, but at least we've given the parameters by which to negotiate. And so that's some of the frustration you're hearing up here. And I just need to make it crystal clear that, and this is to the negotiating team and for the public, I expect you to negotiate for Portland. Please negotiate for Portlanders. Do not negotiate for Tom Dundon. Do not negotiate for the Portland Trailblazers. He has not been working in good faith here. We have. We've all of these amendments were very reasonable starting positions. And so I'm gonna shut up here and I'm gonna let us move on. But I really, really, really hope that what you bring us next week has some measure of what we have talked about. I hope you heard my concern about that post renovation funding stream, because it is extremely important to get me to yes on a term sheet that finds the money to $120 million, because we don't have it yet. So there must be language in there that says we can use that to bond for that. If there is not, I am a no on this term sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Councilor Smith, last word.
Thank you, Council President. Kristen, so are you saying that you're going to put forward the amendments that got voted down? You're still going to put them forward even though they got voted down?
Councilor Smith, what I've been asked to do is bring back review all of the amendments and bring them back into a package. It could be one package.
Review the amendments that were approved?
No, all of the amendments that were brought up. And then because council will need to ultimately decide how you all vote on them. So that entire package could be voted down.
And I think I need to direct my question to Council President, because you can't bring anything forward that we did not approve. So Council
It will be
President,
coming in my name. And I will be bringing forward, if there is a path forward on that the negotiators think that on some of these issues that were tied closer 6-6, I will be sharing with folks an opportunity to vote on it. If it's not, then we won't, and we'll vote it down. And we'll vote it up or down.
Generally, you can't move on things that did not pass, Council President. And that is a slap in the face for us who have been here all afternoon, and we voted. If all you're going to do is bring them forward, even though they lost, then why were we here? We could have just emailed you our concerns.
Thank you.
So I think that is not appropriate, and you need to figure out a different way, because as far as I'm concerned, what I'm leaving here is that the current term sheet as is should go forward.
Okay.
If you're going to add some other stuff to it, you are not following procedure.
Then what is a president's package?
Right.
We have brought forward president's packages before. This is not unprecedented.
Okay, colleagues. Councilor Murillo, last word.
I was just saying that this council has had situations where we've brought amendments to things before, they've failed, and then they have been recuperated in a president's package in an attempt to reconcile something that is workable. So this is not unprecedented. Granted, the president packages have not been super successful, because when you put everything that everyone doesn't like in a thing, then usually it doesn't work out. But it is an option. And the goalpost has continued to move for this discussion for what is acceptable. Also, Kristen, I just want to say that you're doing a great job, and none of our ire is directed at you. I'm mostly frustrated at my colleagues and the whole process of trying to negotiate with people that don't seem to love the city as much as we do, but you're doing a great job, and I just wanted to say that.
With that, we're going to adjourn.
President, thank you.
The city's business is concluded. This meeting of the Portland City Council is adjourned.